Hey there, everybody, fans of Survivor Super Fun Time Show. This is Kevin from the Survivor Super Fun Time Show. And today we're doing an episode 5 recap of Survivor 45. You know me a little bit, and obviously, you know this person that's with me today. They're a member of the Tika tribe. They're one of the most underrated players from Survivor 44. Unfortunately, didn't quite make it to the end, to the final two seats that I had predicted for 44, but that's not for lack of trying at all. And today we're being thankfully joined by Helen Li of Survivor 44. How are you doing
Hello,
today, Helen?
everyone. I'm good. How are you, Kevin?
I'm doing amazing. It was another excellent episode of Survivor. These 90-minute episodes are really giving us what we're looking for, I think, at this point. How do you
I'm
feel about that?
obsessed. It feels like old Survivor with, like, of course, we have the advantages and whatnots and gizmos, things like that. But just getting to see like mundane camp life and social dynamics, it's like what I've been wanting for like ever since all of the, immunity idols and nullifiers and all of this stuff got thrown into the game. This has been like the best thing ever.
Yeah, we got to see Kendra try to eat a worm. That was
Yes.
fun.
Which is,
With
it sounds like harder than you'd expect. Like she was having some trouble, but that was so fun. Like, we never would have gotten to see that if it were the old, like, what is it, hour-long episodes, 60-minute episodes.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
traditional 60 minutes. I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of worm eating going on at Tika that we didn't get to see.
Yeah, I
Is
think
it?
Carolyn definitely ate a worm. I don't think I didn't eat a worm, but I ate snails, which were actually, they were pretty good. So
Oh, you ate snails? You just saw one go by and you're like, they're not very
actually,
fast. So
I
I
don't
think,
know if snails are even like the right terminology. It's like the ones that are on the rocks in the water. Are they barnacles? I don't know what they
oh,
are.
well, there's such thing as sea snails. Maybe they're sea snails.
Maybe.
I don't
But
know. They're
my
slushy and
family is
delicious.
Chinese and they actually eat those like as a delicacy in China. So I was like, oh, we can definitely eat these. We boiled them and like ate them before we had like any protein really. So it's
Oh,
yummy.
obviously. So it's yeah, they're like the raisins of the ocean, I guess. So that's
Exactly.
great.
Just pop them in as a little
Yeah,
snack.
yeah. Just who needs Sunmaid? Is that the company? Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
No, but yeah, so I think you're right about that, where we just see a lot of these cool, goofy things at camp. It really feels like we can flesh out the characters a little bit more than we have in the past. Because and I hate, a lot of times I interchange castaways with characters. So,
Hmm.
obviously, like I'm talking to a real person right now and not Helen was just a character on TV. So forgive me if I end up doing that as synonyms, but I think it's important to remember that because we're talking about the quality of the TV show that's been put in front of us with these individual people. And I think you're dead on. The 90 minutes just really flushes them out and just makes it so fun to see the camp life, to see the Funkle Bruce being silly all
Funko
the time.
Bruce. I
How
bet no
great.
one saw this coming. Like they saw such a small sliver of Bruce during 44, and so much of it was, oh, like post concussion Bruce, which was obviously not him in his normal element. But this is exactly who Bruce is. Like even in the 12 hours, the day or so that we got to see him, and in Ponderosa, like this is who he is. He's like a goofy ham of a person. So
The Prince of Pondy.
Prince of Pondy, he truly
Yeah,
was. He welcomed all of us with open arms. He was like the
because
welcoming committee.
there was a period of time where, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a period of time where it was like you, Bruce, Claire, Maddie, right?
Sarah. Then Sarah came in.
Sarah.
Yeah,
Oh, Sarah.
it was hilarious. It was like Bruce and the girls. Like
Yeah.
he was acting like he was all of our dads, and he was like, "Oh, girls, like when is there going to be another man to come in so I can talk to someone about something that's not like, oh, what like TikToks are we making or whatever it is." So yeah, he
Man,
was
what a vibe
our
at that
Pondy dad.
Ponderosa.
Yeah, it was a
Well,
great Pondy.
the good news is at this point, it looks like Bruce is probably going to be safe for a little bit, so we don't have to get too scared of that. I mean, I think honestly that may be a good starting point because I
Yeah.
mean, you were tribe members on Tika. Obviously, you got to experience him a little bit. I think he was only in the game for a day, something like that, day, 2 days. But that's fine. But now he's made it so much further and he's showing a lot of personality. So the question is, your former Tika teammate, how do you think he's shaping up in the game so far? What do you think have been positives that you think he's provided to the game, or maybe some missteps?
Yeah, for sure. Uh, and this is the thing too, where you talked about Kevin, like characters versus who we are as people. This is who Bruce is. He is like even against all of the logic in his brain that says, "Oh, I don't want to be seen as dad. I want to be the fun uncle." Like he is who he is and he is like a coach father figure. Like he has a bit of a bossy mentality or like he's older than a lot of the people on this cast. He knows things because he's gone through more things in life than a lot of them have. So we could see that even like day one. Like there were certain things, like he was our coach, he was our leader. We were asking him, hey, how do we cut bamboo? How do we put together a shelter in the correct way? How do we do fire in the right way? And he was leading us until he got medevac from the game. And you see that here. I think it can be beneficial and it can also hurt him. Like it can help prepare the tribe and make sure they're doing the things they need to do and like well prepared for challenges and well set up at camp and have their shelters set up. But you see with Katora, you see with like Kelly sometimes too, it's starting to rub people a little bit the wrong way. And over time, I think that can build up to like hurt his social game a bit. But at the same time, I think there's also a little bit of, is this at all intentional? Is this part of his strategy? Or is this just who he is? You kind of see with 44, there were like certain moments when Carolyn, for instance, would rub people a little bit the wrong way. And then her personality actually carried her really to the end. So I think there's like a bit of like how much of this is actually part of his strategy and how much of it is just innately who he is that comes out when you're under duress and you're trying to, make the best of a stressful situation.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that my first question, I hate to say it, is just to be like a smart aleck here. Hey, did you ever try to use any like palm fronds or make any of those and Bruce slapped you down at any point?
No, well, I think Bruce learned with the rest of us how useless weaving pom fronds were, but we tried that like anyone does when you're new to Survivor because you see them do it on TV and it's almost like a rite of passage, right? You're like, okay, let me weave the pom fronds and try to boil the water. And then you learn by day three, like, okay, that's just a waste of time. Throw them on there, get the water and drink it out of the well.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, we tried to do it. Sarah was quite good at it. I was like okay at it. But he was all for us trying. I think he was kind of going through the first trials as all of us were of like, okay, we realized after a time that this is probably not the most useful thing.
And also, you have to think like you're in Bruce's position where you smacked your head and you're out of the game right away, so you really get to play. He's like, listen, tomorrow is absolutely not promised for me, so you know what? No one's weaving these palm fronds. We're gonna get to it right now, and
Yeah.
we're just gonna make sure we're being efficient with our time. And you know what? I think you're right from the outside. I immediately see that. Yeah, you could upset some people, but pretty overwhelmingly, Bello seemed to really respect that advice. Like maybe it's irritating when, you're hungry and you're transitioning into the game, but ultimately you go like, well, was he wrong? And then that
Hmm.
kind of kicks into the back of your brain, I would think, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like maybe he could have said things in a little bit of like a more tactful way and maybe you suggest it rather than you order it, whatever. At the end of the day, his advice was absolutely true. Like absolutely, weaving palm fronds is really not the best use of time. Like he probably told them, hey, we don't need to boil the water day one. Like we all learned that, and he's trying to save time. He has really good intentions and he's not wrong
Mhm.
about any of it. But it's more about how you go about it in a way that positions you in a spot where people want to work with you. And that's the piece that you kind of always have to keep in mind with anything you do in Survivor.
Mhm. Well, I guess kind of piggybacking off of that, you had mentioned Katura at this point. Katura has
Yeah.
had it out for our man Bruce for a couple episodes at this point. It's the most one-sided feud I've ever seen in
It
Survivor, I think.
is
And
so
I want
funny. It is like one of my favorite things on TV. Like I love watching the rivalry. I think it's so entertaining.
hmm. I mean, it feels like it came out of nowhere. I mean, I guess that's what happens when your personality grates with another really strong personality. But the fact that Bruce is like he's like doing the robot and just getting silly all the time, and Katura is just sitting there just like, I hate this man. Like not, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I guess, as a viewer, like pretend you didn't know Bruce, like which is hard to do. But where are you kind of falling on the sides of this? Because Katura and Bruce, luck would have it, in the tribe swap, ended up on the same tribe again. They couldn't even get away from each other there.
Which
Where
is
do
just
you
like
feel you're you're
chef's
you're sitting with
kiss
it?
from like the Survivor gods that they were like, we need to keep these two together because this
Oh
is
yeah.
TV gold. Okay, so where I sit on that, I can see where Bruce sometimes can get grating, like especially Katura. I think she's mentioned a couple times, like I'm a grown woman. You don't need to like call me kid or tell me what to do. I get it. Like sometimes that can rub you the wrong way, especially when you're hungry and you're tired and you're, out in the wilderness and you're trying to figure out this game that's so stressful really at all times. At the same time, I think you always have to keep in mind like how do I position myself so I have inroads with everyone because Survivor is such an unpredictable game. And like you said, they were swapped onto the same tribe. They happen to also be swapped with Kelly and who else was on their tribe? Caleb and
Um,
I'm missing.
oh, on the current Lulu?
Yeah,
Oh,
current Lulu.
yeah. I should have this ready in my head. Um,
Either way, like she also had Kelly and she had a bunch of options with current Lulu, right? But like she could have also very easily had the Brando Kendra situation where they are the only two swapped onto another tribe. And if you're like
Jake.
so overt about like, oh, I'm not getting along with you, we're like clashing and like you're annoying me and I'm making it known, that makes it much harder if that were to happen, which very well it could have, to then have keep that relationship with Bruce and say, hey, we need each other to make it to the next tribal council, to make it to the next phase of this game. So I think it's both ways. Like, yeah, maybe you're annoyed. You have to try to hide that as much as you can because you want to preserve every option that you can, so you can move through the game with like a multiple of like different combinations of people.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, we sitting here listening to you, we're listening to someone who has played the game, and we have not been there at
Barely.
this point. But I think, stop it. You said 5 days, right? That's where it ended up
Yeah.
falling. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if Carson, pretty much votes the other way, it could have been a Tika run to the final three, then a completely different format. So, I mean, don't try to sell yourself short. I've played many Settlers of Catan games where if I had just built to the effing port that I needed to at the right time, I would have won the whole thing. But
Right.
it happens, right?
Right.
But actually, by the way, the other person from Lulu that we had forgotten was Jake. Poor Jake, passing out all the
Jake.
time.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, Katura got lucky, right? She got placed on a tribe where it was one original Lulu and then three of her original tribe members.
Hmm.
So she has options. She has existing relationships with Kelly, Jake, Bruce, and she doesn't necessarily need Bruce to move forward. But she very well could have been in a situation where she did. And so I think it's wise to keep your options open.
I agree. I also thought Katura's strategy with going at Bruce, even pre-swap, was a bit odd. It seemed like. I mean, it was smart in how she first explained it, in that she's like, "Listen, I'm not going to outright say it, but if anyone does say anything kind of negative, I'm going to highlight, I'm going to, amplify, and blah blah blah, that kind of stuff,"
Hmm.
which is very bright. But she was like, in the next sentence, it's like, "Well, everyone also like loves Bruce." So I feel like he's a bad choice, right? Like just let it
Yeah,
play out,
yeah,
don't raise any red flags for yourself because you already said Bruce is like the guy.
yeah.
And the guy, once he gets a whiff of it, sorry, you're the next one.
And for what it's worth, I think that we obviously see confessionals and like none of the players do. So I think Katura is like hilarious and like so open about her dislike of Bruce in the confessionals. She probably isn't acting like that at camp. She probably is able to keep that a little bit more, on the DL. So I think
Uh,
she probably is like doing a bit of what I'm saying, and we're just like biased because we see all of her hilarious like
They're
confessionals.
crazy funny. They're so funny. Like, I think she had the first confessional that had no words, like no audio to it.
I watched that clip maybe like 30 times. I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Like it's just like pure comedy. Like Survivor
Is that your
editors
Roman Empire?
are killing it. Yes, I watch it every day. I watch it before I go to sleep, when I wake up. No. But like Survivor editors are really having so much fun this season. You can tell. Like they did that little trick this episode too, where it was like Jay Maya being like, "This is the best day I've had yet," and then Austin being like, "This is the worst day."
I was hoping you were gonna say that one because like when I saw that, I was like, "Oh my god, dude, they are doing so well at it." He's like, "Great, we have this amulet that none of us are ever gonna come to an agreement about, and this is stupid." And then
Yeah.
Jemi's super psyched. Oh, it was such a good trick. It was such a
So
good trick. I
funny.
loved it.
So funny.
Um, Definitely, I think that you're right. They're probably like Katura. I'm probably honestly, she's probably a lockbox when she's with the rest of the group. I see that
Yeah.
in her. I think she has every ability to win the game. The problem is the way it's being edited tells me her and Bruce definitely come to a clash, and the way I'm reading it is she will lose that clash. So,
Mhm.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it shapes up, especially if she finds an idol. I know she's looking for the Lulu one, but that doesn't exist because Sabaya, took it. Unless they replant another one, I guess.
Very
Uh,
interesting, by the way, that no one on Bello has found the Beware advantage. Like we saw the preview, it
mhm,
looks like maybe there's Mergatory next week, and
mhm.
still no one has found the Beware advantage. I don't think anyone even like found the initial step, which is fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if, like, part of me almost wonders if I mean, this can't be the case. Everyone had to be looking for the idol, but I almost thought, I wonder if there's this like culture of comfort at Bello because they weren't even close to losing anything.
Yeah.
So I was almost kind of wondering if people just didn't feel the desperation to do it, but that can't be
Yeah.
true. I mean, you were out there. Everybody's like looking one way or another, right?
Everyone is, and I will say it could almost just be like a culture of how often they're together. Like I will say the first few days at Tika, we had a really hard time like finding opportunities to split off into smaller groups. Because in the beginning we were like tending to Bruce and trying to build our shelter, and everyone was always together as the whole tribe for like so much time, and it just came off as sketchy if you're like, oh well, like I'm gonna go get firewood, does anyone want to come with me? So it took a little bit of time for us to like break out of that, and I wonder if that was just like maybe more of the culture at Bello is like finding it hard to actually sneak off and like look on your own.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if Bruce like implemented the old Boston Rob buddy system or
Buddy
something.
system.
You
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I could see it like I first of all, I met Bruce a few times. I love Bruce. Bruce is
Yeah,
great, but I
of
could see him
course.
doing the buddy system, definitely with a group
Yeah.
of people significantly younger than him.
Yeah, he's
So,
got that like authority, like that natural leadership that you're like, yeah, okay, you say that, I'll do it."
oh, absolutely. It'd be like, well, it sounds like a good idea. This dude was like it was in the Navy, and so I mean,
Exactly.
I don't know, he knows something about something. So I
Exactly.
could definitely see it. It looks like I said, probably come to a clash. Not sure, but I'm glad to hear that generally it sounds like the vibe I'm getting from you is that Bruce is kind of on a good path. Yeah, it could be a little, maybe you should like back up a little bit on some stuff, but as we get to the individual game, I'm kind of curious how he's viewed now that the shine of being a returner, technically a
Hmm.
returner, has kind of come off a little bit and it's more of a level playing field. Like long-term potential, what do you think about like what do you think for Bruce's game?
Yeah, I think Bruce, the key here is like really cultivating those one-on-one relationships. And I think from what we've seen, it seems like he and Jake get along. They're like two like New England Boston boys. Jake's got the accent, and I'm sure he was stoked to see that they were on the same team because they got that like Boston connection.
Hmm.
But we haven't seen as much from like Bruce and Kelly or Bruce and Brando. So I'm very curious, like what the state of their one-on-one relationships are, because I think the key in the individual game is having stronger relationships with people than other people perceive. And so that there's essentially like someone in every conversation that's going to vouch for you and say, actually, I don't want to vote Bruce. I want to vote someone else. Right. And that's
Hmm.
how you make sure that you're like safe through some of the most treacherous parts of the game, which is like the mid game part.
Hmm.
So I'm very curious to see how he performs in that part, and like carries through there. I think he's a very personable person, and he is someone that is very open minded and likes to like meet different people that are like younger than him or different walks of life. So I could see him doing well in that session.
Yeah, I think he has a good little while to go in the game. But then again, I already told you this. He was my 45 winner pick, just like my 44 winner pick.
Yep.
But obviously that didn't work out. But if he doesn't, Austin's kind of the guy I'm rooting for. But I don't know. He's an obvious target. He's like Joe Anglim level of target in my opinion. So,
I
um,
think Austin is doing so well. I think he is like
mhm.
really well positioned. Um, and I
Absolutely. I mean,
think
he's got a
because
treasure trove of advantages at this point.
treasure trove of advantages. He has like a clear number one who's very loyal to him. And I think he has a little bit of that Caleb charm where he's able to really connect with people one on one, but he's a little bit more subtle about it. Like you look at Caleb and you're like, oh, I know you're a player. I know you're charismatic
Yeah.
and I know you're charming everyone around here. I think Austin can go a little bit more under the radar with his charm, but still be as effective with like making people want to work with him.
I agree. I don't know if you would be with me on this one, but the what I get from Austin when talking to him, like not that he'd be dumb, but like I feel like he gives off a naive charm compared to
Hmm.
Caleb. Does that make sense? Like obviously he's with every conversation and he's incredibly bright.
Hmm.
His read on the game I think is A plus honestly. But if
Agree.
I were out there talking to him, I'd be like, okay, I know he's like really strong, but I also feel like he's gonna go along rather than take control. But in reality, he really is kind of taking control behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's an interesting game because Survivor has evolved so much, and now that they're casting so many super fans, it becomes this meta game where, like, if you are too overtly good at this game, then you almost are bad at this game because you are putting yourself as out there of a threat like much too quickly. And that's my worry with Caleb is because he oozes charisma. Like you look at him, you're like, this guy's a salesman. He is gonna like charm every person's pants off, and then your immediate thought is like, alarm bells. I cannot let this man get close to the end no matter how much I like him and want to be around him. But I agree
Absolutely.
with you. I think Austin has a little bit more. It's
Little
I don't know if
boyish
it's
charm. Is that the right way
yeah
to describe
boyish
it?
charm, but
Yeah.
like he doesn't seem as like conniving almost, where he's able to like he has A+ takes like you mentioned, but like he it doesn't like come off like he knows everything or has the every single thing figured out, which I think works very much to his favor.
Big time, big time. And you know what? We're going to hop around a little bit in the discussion, but since we started talking about
Yeah.
Austin, we might as well go to the journey and specifically relating to Austin. Now, it's
Yes.
Savvy versus Sandwiches because we know the deal. He went on a journey with J Maya, with Kelly, and himself, of course. And they had the option. They went up to the mount and they said, listen, you can have this like ham sandwich or whatever it was, each of you. Or you have the second option where you can take the amulet, which is the first time it's been brought back since Survivor 42, which I actually kind of like the amulet, so I was happy to see it back. And the options are if you take it, each one gets an amulet, but the amulet, the only way you can use it is combined, all three of them. All three of them get one extra vote combined, so they have to agree on it. But if there are two people left in the game, the amulets become a steal a vote. Again, they have to do it combined. Now, if there's one amulet left in the game, that is a regular hidden immunity idol. And they only function up till six people left. So there's a
Hmm.
little bit of game left. Now, knowing what you know, where did you sit on the amulet and the choice for the group? I say that very liberally because Austin wanted the sandwiches. What did you
Yeah.
feel about the group's decision in that regard and the thought process?
Yeah. Okay. So I will be very candid here and say that my initial instinct, as is probably anyone's initial instinct watching this and a lot of Survivor players, is of course you go for the amulets. Like
Mm-hmm.
strategy versus food, you always go for the strategy. And that's what Survivor wants. That's what makes good TV. That's what makes exciting gameplay. That's what they want. And they cast people that are risk takers. So those are I think almost always the instinct is going to be, of course, you take the amulet. But then I thought about it and like listening to Austin's reasoning, he's absolutely correct that the amulet is only like going to put a target on you and it's not going to benefit you. Like these people are not really working together. Kelly hasn't even met these people. It seems like Austin and J Maya are on separate sides of the Reba Alliance, although she might not be aware of that. Um, so the odds that these three people are going to work together to get one extra vote, slim to none. The odds that even two of them are going to work together to use steal a vote, slim to none. So the real incentive here is to vote out every single other person that has an amulet, so you have a hidden immunity idol. Austin already has one. He knows this. Kelly doesn't know it. J Maya doesn't know it. So he's literally saying, okay, you guys are going to go home to food, and I'm going to go home to nothing and have this amulet that puts a target on my back, or I'm going to eat a sandwich. So I think Austin's reasoning is like bulletproof. I think he absolutely had the right call. But the amulet is such a siren call. Like you can't look at that and be like, okay, I'm gonna give up this potential, I don't know, power or strategy and eat a sandwich. So I understand where Kelly and J Maya are coming from too. And I think the other thing I'll say is to your earlier point, you always want to preserve your optionalities in the game. And so I think it was very savvy of Austin to say, hey, I want to go for the sandwich, but if you guys really want to go for the amulets, and he could kind of see Kelly leaning that way, I'm all for it. Let's just do the amulet. Because I think if you're pushing too hard against going for the amulet, what that rings off in my head is like, hey, Austin, your first instinct was this amulet is basically going to tell everyone else to go for me. What that tells me is you're going to go for me if I have the amulet. So if he's like really, really hard pushing against it, I'm thinking Austin's going to go for me the second he can because I'm the other person that has the amulet. So I think he played that just about as well as he could have in trying to
Mm-hmm.
influence it towards sandwiches, but being flexible enough to say, hey, I know where this is headed. Let's just do the amulet because that's what people want.
I think that's I think you pretty much taken the words out of my mouth. I totally agree with that. I don't know how Austin kept it as cool as he did. I mean, listen, I've been around a sandwich a time or two, and I wanted to attack that thing, and no amulet was going to get in my way. But he
Yeah.
kept it cool, you know. I love that. It's an interesting situation where I tried to immediately identify with Austin a little bit more, and I tried to think in his shoes. Also, we saw his explanation for it all, and it made total sense, like you said.
Yeah.
I tried to then after think about, particularly in the shoes of J Maya. J Maya, you know, there was this fallout from Reba, which we'll talk about a little bit from the previous tribal council. J Maya still doesn't quite have great footing in the game. She's
Hmm.
presented a sandwich or an amulet that possibly, you know, yeah, maybe it is targeting one another, but really, I mean, she's probably reaching for whatever she can. So if
Hmm.
she has an option to possibly form another alliance, no matter how loose it may be, it actually makes a lot of sense. So I'm
Yeah.
with her on that. But I
She
also,
also, by the way, is a
mhm.
vegetarian, so she probably would have had to like
Oh,
take the turkey out of the. I don't know, like
oh,
it's still food, but it's probably a little bit less appealing because she's a vegetarian.
oh, come on. Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. Damn. All right, I didn't even realize that honestly, but I guess that makes a lot of sense. Okay, perfect. You know, I'm definitely with her on that. And but then you look at Austin, it's like there's no incentive for Austin because he's got his stuff in line. So
Right.
you could even see like if there is a little bit too much protest, not only is it like, well, you know, Kelly or J Maya think, you know, is Austin going to come for me just to keep the amulet for himself at full power as an idol? But it's like, are you basically communicating to me that you've already got a big alliance set up and you're good? You
Yeah.
know, like that's like a different level, I think, of thinking, but I think it could be an outcome. So I think you're very on point for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You look at it from J Maya's point of view, and I get her decision too. Like everyone's decision makes sense here, which is why I think these 90-minute episodes are so great because you get to hear what people's rationale was. And you are not as surprised when you're like, oh, that action made total or like didn't make sense at all to me because you didn't hear the explanation for it. You actually get to hear people's explanations. And I think I agree with you for J Maya, like even the possibility that it is something that she could use to her advantage is probably going to help her game. And I think for her too, she probably feels like she has some inroads with Dee and Mama Julie, and they probably are like aligned with Austin. Maybe they like Austin's also on her side. And for her, it's like, okay, if two of the three amulet owners are from Reba, maybe we just work together and get Kelly out. We can work together to use the steal vote, right?
Yeah, you would think that would kind of line up naturally. I mean, because I think Sandra said this one time. Like, listen, when it comes down to it, it's all about who you were with, and that's then that's how you end up voting sometimes. Now, obviously, that's not a hard rule or anything, but it's a real convenient factor to get together and link up for at least a singular task, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
think I think it was super interesting. I think you're dead on about that. And I actually really hope this parlays into something cool for Maya because I have a lot of hope for Maya in the game long term. It's looking pretty ugly in the short, but
Yeah.
with the merge coming up, that's good. It shakes everything up.
It's great, and it opens the field. Like, she has so many more options, so many more people to connect to. We saw her, like, connect very quickly with Sean, and I'm actually kind of I don't know, I'm surprised. She seems awesome. Like, I don't know why she isn't, like, super tight with, Dee and Mama Julie and all these other folks, but, yeah, I'm excited for her to, like, be able to explore the field and, like, find the people that are really gonna, like, stick with her.
Totally. I think it's probably fair to say that once the merge time comes around, that's probably when she's going to flourish a little bit more, right?
I hope so, yeah, I love watching her. She's great.
Yeah, she's got a fun personality. Although the pun thing, I still don't get the pun thing. I guess there were like I think Brando was big on puns. I never got it, but when I was reading the bios, it was like, oh, by the way, I'm a pun champion. What the hell is
Yeah.
that?
It's fascinating. I like read some articles about this in college because I had a friend who also loved puns. And it's like freestyle rapping. Like it's hard to come up with in the moment. And
Was it
so
like
it's
Eight
very
Mile?
impressive. Yeah, exactly. Like you know how freestyle rappers it's like they can take random words and just like start weaving them into the raps. Like I think that's like crazy that they can do
Yeah,
that. I don't
that's
know
a
how you
crazy
think that
skill.
fast, but it, like puns are the same thing. It's like, oh, here's a random topic and a random word. Come up with a pun. Like, I don't know how to think that fast. That's wild.
I have no idea. Like, I tried to upload like a T-shirt of something about Maya, and I was trying to think of a pun, and I sat there for like 10 minutes, and I looked at examples of puns, and I just don't have the ability. I'm just out.
Yeah,
I'll
it's a
leave that to
talent
Jay.
for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of some talents here, actually, you know what? We'll swap to this because for a second we talked about Brando a little bit.
Oh,
But
I
anyway,
love
kind of like
Brando. I'm so sad to see him go.
Brando's an adorable little guy. Sorry, that's the second client of Adam Klein's on this season. Unfortunately, they got the
Mm.
boot.
Who
Um,
was the first one?
Brandon,
Brandon. Brandon. Got it.
Brandon. Fun
Brandon
random
and
fact.
Brando.
Yeah, yeah, I know, right? Like the total empire of the Brandos is completely out of the game now at this point.
Yeah.
Fun random fact: I work with a guy that is like was grew up with Brandon, so it's kind of weird. Like ever since the beginning of the season, they're like, "Yeah, Brandon's like, excited for the game," or blah blah blah. And that his premiere party was really, really a little sad because it was him and Emily at
Yeah.
the Philly watch party. Oh my gosh, it's so funny because obviously I love Emily now, and Brandon is so funny. Anyone who doesn't follow Brandon on Twitter, go do that.
Brandon is
Brando.
hilarious on Twitter. You have to
Oh
follow
God,
him.
yeah. Do you watch the challenge, Helen?
I only started watching Challenge USA because of Survivor. So I've watched Challenge USA 1 and 2, but I haven't watched any of the MTV ones.
Okay, solid. Okay, so do you know shit. Well, so you know Fessy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I remember the one tweet that Brandon's like, after he got voted out and couldn't get up the freaking ladder. He's like, so anyway, the challenge, yeah, definitely. I'm here to do a hall brawl against Fessy or something. I was like, man, this guy's
That
funny.
was so funny. He's very self-deprecating. He's like very charming and hilarious on Twitter. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
I'm not shocked at all he got it in this game, for sure.
yeah.
But anyway, I apologize. There's just too many charming people on this season that I get a little sidetracked with it.
It's a great cast. I love this cast. It's so fun to watch.
Absolutely. And it's a shame too, because some of the people that I really was looking forward to the most, they ended up, getting out of the game super early. Like Hannah, honestly, like Hannah Rose, I thought it was going to be a really fun person to have in the game. Usually anyone who works in the mental health field,
Hmm.
I typically think they're going to do pretty well in the game because they can work with difficult people and usually have
Right.
experienced it themselves and usually have a pretty good sense of humor as a result. That's why I liked Carolyn for your season. I was like, she'll probably
Hmm.
do well. But didn't work that way. But this is a great cast. You're right. With Brando, very specifically the circumstance, we're talking about Bella. We were with Austin, and now he's got that amulet. The makeup of that tribe. I mean, you have Austin and Drew, Biffles forever,
Hmm. Hmm.
together, of course. Then you have Kendra and Brando from
Yes.
the former Bello tribe, and then you have sweet little wonderful Emily right in the middle, trying to
Yep.
work, each other's side here.
In
And
the best spot of all, like in the entire game, she got like how people get swap fucked. Can I say that?
yeah,
Swap.
no, yeah, it's YouTube. Who cares?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. She got the opposite, where she just got placed in like the best spot in the entire game.
oh, it's perfect. And like, I love the dynamics of that tribe because like Emily being mixed in this like weird soup, the swap soup,
Yes.
I guess you want to call it, of like these like over like big threats and overly jocks and the smartest people. Like Drew's like practically a brainiac person. I love that Emily got to sit in the middle, watch them fight a little bit, and like to do.
And
So I
I
mean,
just
she's
love for her, like, I feel like she must have felt like her game just started off on such a bad note, right? Like, she was really at the bottom for all of these tribals. And to get
yeah.
swapped into such a great position and feel like, hey, people are coming to me and asking me to work with them and they're fighting over me, like, amazing change of events. Like, I'm just, because when I was at Tika, it felt, understand the empathy, or like, I empathize with how horrible it feels to just feel like you're always on the bottom and you just have no way out. Like, we lost every challenge. We lost Bruce day one. Like, everything was going wrong. And for that to like flip must be just like the best feeling in the world.
Well, probably. I mean, I'll tell you, I did the first recap, the first episode recap with Gabler, and I still have my graphics from it right here. And this was the very first graphic. So
Oh,
yeah,
Emily.
I think it's fair to say that she had a pretty rough start to the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think pretty objectively that was pretty tough. Like yeah, good feels. We're on a boat. We're all equal. And Emily's like, no, let me speak up for no reason and just come at you. Look, don't get me wrong. I love Emily. I would love it if she won this game. And you're right. I think you're right. Sitting in the best spot like that, having people come and bring her the evidence and the pitches. Oh, it was so fun to watch. And one of
Yeah.
those, I mean, well, right before it got to the Emily piece of it, and we'll get to that in a second. I thought it was really interesting. Brando made this move to go to Drew and basically say, well, it's basically going to be me or Kendra. So Drew, here's my shot in the dark. You can take this as proof that I'm not going to play it, and
Hmm.
I'm going to vote with you to vote out Kendra. And
Hmm.
this was all a ploy in the end, it looked like, to try to, just make them feel safe, and they were going to try to vote out Drew.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of curious on like a multi-level step. Um, if you're Brando, why do you give up your shot? That like, is that really the best move, you think?
Yeah, I think this is such an interesting like mix of decisions, like both on Brando's side, on Drew's side, everyone. And I really empathize or like sympathize with Brando because I feel like I was reacting to situations at Tika in a very similar way, in that we probably are both people who like think are and are trying to build up these moats of like, okay, if plan A doesn't go well, let me go with plan B and then plan C and then plan D, all these things to try to like secure your place. And honestly, it doesn't end up great because at the end of the day, like you just need your plan to go right.
Hmm.
But I think I see what he was doing here, where he's counting on plan A being, hey, me, Kendra, Emily, we're gonna vote Drew or Austin, one of those two will go home. If that doesn't go well, I want their target to be Kendra. So even if that doesn't go well, I'm not the one going home. And I don't know if he heard maybe Emily talk about when she gave up her shot in the dark to Sabaya, and that got her through the next vote. Maybe that like sparked an idea with him where he was like, hey, I'm assuming that like my plan A is going to work and Drew or Austin will go home. But if not, I will do this and make sure that the target's on Kendra and not me. I think
Hmm.
the odd thing to me is like, okay, if that is the plan and Drew goes home, let's say, doesn't he take your shot in the dark with him home and
Well,
you like
yeah, that was one of the things I was
lose
gonna
your
say.
shot in
It's
the
kind of a
dark?
big flaw. I mean, that shot's
Yeah.
gone, baby. That's gone. I
Yeah, so I
mean,
don't know. Honestly, I don't know if he was really like actually going for Kendra, or he was just using that to like, shore up a plan B to say if it's not you guys, then at least it's Kendra and not me. And
mhm.
maybe for him, he's like, screw the shot in the dark. It's like 1 in 6 anyway. Who cares if I lose it? If I get through to the next vote and get to the merge or whatever it is. So that's an interesting one. I thought it was a baffling choice on Drew's part to reject it. Like
I
if he's
know. I
going
was gonna say,
for
why wouldn't you
I
just take
I
it?
don't know. Like if he's going for Brando, don't you want at least that like extra insurance that he's not gonna 1 in 6 play a shot in the dark and be safe and then force
Yeah.
force it on you or Austin? I don't know. I thought that was interesting. It's maybe admirable that he was like, hey, no, it's okay, I'm not gonna take it. But I think
Mhm.
from a game perspective, I don't really get the reasoning. So
I totally agree with you, and I've come to a conclusion. I don't think Drew's that good at this game, and I know that's like it feels like a hot take right now because Drew's obviously a brilliant guy and he's doing well. It's looking very JT and Steven Fishback right now from Tone
yeah,
Confused,
that's
like
like
him and
it was a great
Austin.
comparison when he made that because I was like, this is exactly
Honestly,
what this dynamic is.
totally, that's how it feels. But the problem is, it sounds like Austin's more Fishback right now because Drew like won't stop telling people his advantages or not taking advantage of other people's stuff. Like I'm not really understanding it at this point. Like it's thank God he's his right hand man or vice versa is Austin, because if not, this dude. I don't know how I don't know. When he didn't take the shot in the dark, I was like, why didn't you do that? All you got to do is say, thank you, man. You know what? This did it. And then vote him out
Yeah.
anyway. Like, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
And
Then you have two
actually,
shots in
what
the
I thought
dark.
was even more baffling was when Brando was trying to make a honest effort and say, "Hey, like, can we be an alliance? Like, can we work together?" And I just feel like the number one rule in Survivor is like you never say no to an alliance. Like, even
Hmm.
if you don't mean it, just pretend that you do, so you have that option moving forward. It's all about options. Like, if you're
Hmm.
in the post or in the mergatory stage, post merge stage, and all of a sudden Brando has power, don't you want him to feel like you're on his side? Like, why would you reject someone's offer like that? I think that's an interesting choice, and I was almost
Absolutely.
worried that like going into this episode, it felt to me like Emily was leaning toward Austin and Drew. And
Hmm.
then Drew was kind of left to his own devices when Austin went on the journey. And a lot of the deliberation would happen where Brando, Kendra, Emily, and Drew were the only ones at camp. And I almost felt like without Austin there, Drew Drew almost like pushed her toward the other side. So
Hmm.
I was like, man, like Austin needs to come back and kind of rectify this
Yeah,
situation.
he
Otherwise,
needs to
like they might
stabilize
be,
this.
Yeah, exactly. And you saw he came back and like did a great job with like pulling her back in and showing her the advantage or the amulet or whatever it is. And he was able to like get her back on their side, but it looked a little dicey for a second.
Yeah.
It,
I mean,
and
think about it, you're
partially
in
due to Drew's
Austin's think about being in
actions.
Austin's shoes in this one. It's like you just went to the thing, you didn't get your goddamn sandwich, and you come back and you find out your ally screwed everything up, and you have to use the stupid
Yeah.
amulet you didn't want in the first place to try to win it Emily back over. Thankfully, it looks like it kind of did. But
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
he also lied to the tribe initially. He didn't tell them the full truth, which he really pulled it off. Good job on his part.
It was a good
Um,
lie. And it
yeah,
sounded like I think I saw a secret scene afterward where Kelly told the same lie. So it sounded like they coordinated and like came up with a story together that they all told their tribes.
well, that's smart because you know they're gonna check notes once the merge hits soon.
Yeah, which
Um,
isn't like a day.
yeah,
So
I mean, based on the preview, you're right. It looks like they're throwing the buffs up in the air already,
yeah.
which is pretty wild. But new era. It's it gets a little crazy sometimes. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, like just imagine being there. I'd be furious. But Austin's a cooler guy than I guess, and he brought Emily back over. Emily is a very by the book person. She understood. She's like, listen, I'm gonna weigh the options, look at the percentages, and it looks like I'm gonna have a further bit of success. I mean, with these two guys, and she's probably right. I mean, no matter how much I love Kendra, which I do, I love Kendra. She's great. Um,
She's so fun to watch.
she's so fun. I wish I could insert a clip of her like making the cat
Yeah,
noises, the
like do
dog
the
noises.
hissing.
Oh yeah, where she's like, it's great. But she like Emily essentially is looking for ROI on two huge shields going to the merge, and that is a massive, massive smart move in my opinion. Like, what do you
She's
think?
a
What do you
smart
think
girl. I mean,
about her
she's a
choice?
financial analyst, right? Like this is what she's doing at every point. It's she's a hyper rational person, it seems like, and she bases a lot of her choices on logic. Um, I have a lot of thoughts about Emily's choice. I think there are so many
Please.
factors that she probably considers as someone who looks at like stocks and tries to analyze them. Like you look at a stock, there's like all these financial statements, all these factors. She talked about this at tribal council. There's the quantitative, there's the qualitative, there's all these things you look at to make a decision.
Hmm.
Um, Among them, who is going to want to work with me beyond just like, okay, we got to merge. Now I'm going to go back to my old tribe. Who's going to actually want to work with me post merge and like really work with me for the long haul? Uh, what else is there? I think I saw in a post game interview that apparently, you know how Kendra had like gone to Lulu for like the first
Oh
tribal
yeah,
and we didn't really see that. That was like cut out. Apparently,
yeah.
she and like Emily bonded then, so she probably has some sort of like form of familiarity with Kendra at least. But that's
Oh
like
okay.
one consideration. You also want to think about, for instance, like her closest ally before this swap was Caleb, and Caleb is now on a tribe that is all Bellows. It's
Hmm.
Bellows and him. So for Emily, does it make sense to go with even more Bellows, or does it make sense to kind of open up the field? Let's assume that she's assuming she and Caleb are going to come together at the merge and still be tight. If I'm ingratiating myself with the Rebas and he's with the Bellows, we now have like the entire game at our disposal of like where do we go? You saw how Tika 3 was able to kind of flip between the two sides at the merge. Like they could have a very similar optionality in front of them if she gets the Rebas and he gets the Bellows.
That was a
So
perfect comparison. I was gonna mention. I was like, kind of reminds me a little bit of Tika.
exactly. And I think there's like all of these, different factors to factor in. I do think at the end of the day, the thing that drove her decision making is like who is making me feel like they want to work with me the best. So it's a little bit of logic, but it's also some feeling. And I think that Austin and Drew were a little bit more convincing. It seems like from at least the edit.
Hmm.
Uh, they approached her very proactively. They were like, "Hey, we really want to work with you." Versus, I think when we saw Brando and Kendra approach her, it was more of like a, "Oh, we're comfortable working with you. I think we're good together as a three." Like it felt a little bit more genuine from Austin and Drew's side. So I'm not surprised she went with them. I think it was probably the right call at the end of the day.
Hmm. I mean, I tend to agree because you think about I think about even like role playing, as far as where you are within a group, and realistically, you look at Brando and Kendra. I mean, Emily's got to see like maybe I'm not as useful in this kind of group here with Brando. However, like with Drew and Austin, I mean, they're going to be linked together, but they're probably going to be challenge guys to some
Hmm.
degree. It's like I can understand how maybe they would underestimate me a little bit, but they would want to drag me along. Whereas I could see like for me, my guess is she could probably see where like Brando would be more willing to like cut Emily because like what is Emily going to do for me that
Hmm.
I can't already do myself because they're both very bright people and they're
I
probably
would
going to
say
be they're
Drew is also pretty bright. I think they're
he
all,
is. He is, but
yeah,
he's tall like a giraffe, so he may have some physical advantages. You know what I mean? Like
that's true.
otherwise, you're
He's very
right.
tall.
You're right. All three of them are like total nerd game bots. Like Brando and Drew are kind of similar in that way. So
Yeah.
I don't want to discount that Drew doesn't also fit in the nerd club. But just because he's just physically he's just a different animal. So he may like fluke win one or two things that
Yeah.
maybe Brando wouldn't have if it's physical, of course.
Yeah. I will
And
say
I
the
yeah.
the con for Emily, I could see for going Austin and Drew is
Hmm.
I don't know how much you are able or she was able to perceive this on the island, but it seems like they're a very, very tight twosome. So
Hmm.
my worry going with them is like, am I now at the bottom of your tight twosome? I'm the third person versus like
Hmm.
Brando and Kendra. If they don't seem as tight, and it seems to us like they don't seem as tight, maybe I can wiggle my way in and like become either Brando or Kendra's number one come
So
the
like an
merge.
alliance of circumstance versus a true like alliance.
Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
I think that that would be my only worry is like, do I go with Austin and Drew? And at the merge, they're like, oh, we're the two, and we go back to Dee and Mama Julie and all these other Rebas, and I'm like on the outs again. But it seems like they did a really good job of selling her, and that like we actually want to work with you. This is like a three-person alliance, not like a two plus Emily.
Hmm. I think it makes a ton of sense. I think it makes a ton of sense. The good news is that either way, even if she had, let's say they voted out Drew, chances are Austin probably would have made it to the merge. And there's a ton of like really big what we always say shields, you know, in the Survivor community, big shields. I mean, you have Sifu, it's in there. You got Austin. You would have Caleb, Bruce. I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody here at this point, but big like challenge shields and
Hmm.
that like stick out right away. Although I think someone like Kelly is going to do super well in the individual challenges, so we'll see. But I could see either way, no matter what decision she makes, I think it was probably going to go well. Emily's got a great spot, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. She's got a
And,
pretty open, I don't know how she does, but she has a pretty open shot to get, I mean, get past the merge, I think. Because she and Caleb are going to be hot commodities once the mergatory happens. Like
oh
you
yeah,
see how it always shakes out. The two big tribes go against each other with like the little tribe in the middle, and the little tribe just soars on through to wherever they go.
this is actually now that you say it, who like what's your favorite two sub of the two? I guess we're looking at here. It's either Austin and Drew, or we're looking at Caleb and Emily.
Ooh,
I know it's a tough.
I kind of love Caleb and Emily. I
Oh,
think
it's the
they're
greatest.
so they're such different people, and I love that they were able to form this partnership together, and I love the way that Caleb kind of like took her in when he saw that she was really like on the bottom and had no one, and that's
Mhm.
his savviness showing. Like he knew that you it's like no person left behind. Like if there is a person who is not making connections, that is an asset to you, and you should take advantage of that, and
Mhm.
that hugely benefited him for the Sabaya vote because otherwise he would have gone out.
Absolutely. Oh, Emily's I guess it's not a famous quote, but I think it's a famous quote when I think about it. She's like, "No, no, no. This isn't Emily saving Emily. This is Emily saving you or
What
something
a
like that."
line! I loved
Yeah.
it.
You know what? Because that was the period of time where I was like, Emily's incapable of lying. She's like the perfect ally. She's loyal and she just straight up tells the truth. I mean, even to her own detriment. I mean, after like Sabaya gave up her vote the one time, I think, because she didn't have the idol yet at that
Hmm.
point. She's just like fervently, almost like arguing with her tribe a little bit. She's like, no, 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 there weren't enough votes. They're like, oh, I don't know what that was. No, there weren't enough votes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it was just her just being straight up rather than trying to fight with people. But I love that
Right.
about her. She's great.
And you see, I think this is I've always said the biggest asset you have in Survivor is self-awareness. And I think she is very self-aware and she knows how to learn from her mistakes. She started off not the greatest, like you mentioned,
It was
but
pretty
like
bad, yeah.
literally just look at the way that she reacted to the alien conversation, episode 1 versus this episode. Like she was like, "Okay, noted. People don't like it when you say, "No, your alien nonsense is crazy. Like what are you talking about?" or react that way at least. And this time around
Totally.
people are like, "Oh, what about aliens?" She's like, "Haha, great." like
Yeah.
like she's learning and she's doing a
I
really good
noticed that
job at
popped up
adjusting.
again. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, they're talking about aliens again,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, yeah.
And like what to your point, I mean, what you're saying is like Emily learned to like back off that. But and I'm not trying to rehash this too much, but even like Bruce and the Katura thing, I think Katura said she wanted push presents, and Bruce is like, nah, your president is your kid. You didn't get any of that. Katura was just like, why are you fighting with me on this? I hate you
Yeah.
even more right now.
Yeah,
So like,
you gotta like read between the lines, right? Like you say something that doesn't go off well, you're like, okay, noted. I'm not gonna say anything like that in the future, and you just gotta learn.
oh yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a big social game. So I think yeah, everyone's trying to figure out where they can win in the margins, even in little conversations like that. And Emily's doing it, but
Yeah,
she's a
yeah, for
financial
sure.
person, so I'm not very surprised. Um, kind of a like a little bit of a harder transition since we had talked about Reba a little bit.
Yeah,
Someone who pretty much up until this point in the game has been purpled is probably the best way to describe it, and that's Sifu. This guy right here, the episode actually starts off with the fallout of the Reba Tribal Council, where Sean had quit, or he asked everyone to vote him out, which, essentially was a quit, right? But there was a vote there that was for Sifu, and Sifu definitely wasn't expecting it. So he comes
he
back,
was
he's a hot
not.
little potato, and basically trying to figure out who exactly did it. And it seems to have ignited his game, and he did some other stuff in the episode. So I guess how did you feel about like the awakening of Sifu?
Yeah, I think it was good. I don't think he realized that he was on the bottom or on the outs until this happened, and it's like to your point, kicking him into gear. I personally would have been pissed if I came back after seeing my name when I wasn't expecting it, and people are like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about it." Like I'd be like, "What are you talking about?" Like, no, we need to talk about it.
And everyone's
Uh,
lying to you. Everyone said they voted for Sean.
yeah, and I I mean, you can't really like police this, but I don't love that Sean like was able to say I didn't vote for you. I feel like that's kind of a bomb to drop on the way out that like
Mhm.
screws the people left in the game. I mean, he answered it because he was asked it, and I don't think that production could have like cut in between like that happening and been like, no, you can't say anything.
Yeah, I
But
was
I
like,
do think
Sifu,
it
once he gets
puts
his mitts around somebody, I don't think anyone's cutting in.
yeah, and but I do feel for like D, J Maya, Mama Julie, like they were put in a very tough position because Sean has no incentive to lie. He is leaving the game. Like, why would he
Mhm.
lie? So if you take his word as truth, their cover gets a little blown, and it's very obvious one of the three of them voted for Sifu. So it's
Mhm.
interesting. I am very confused about why Mama Julie and the Reba girls essentially. Like I don't know why they think he has an idol. They know
I
that
don't get it either.
Austin found the Beware advantage, and unless you're guessing that there's like two idols on Reba, like I don't know why they think he has an idol. Um,
I think it's
and I
crazy confusing. I agree with you.
yeah, and I also think that like like no shade to Sifu, but the way that he was at least edited to like when he was like telling people his little hints of like, oh, by the way, I have an advantage, I have an idol. Like that makes me feel like you absolutely don't. Because why are you telling everyone and making it so obvious unless
Yeah,
you
he
think
has. Does he have any incentive to like tell anyone if he really had one?
right, right? Like I
No, I'm
think
serious. Like I'm curious. Like what? Like genuinely in that situation, you think you're on the bottom now. Everyone wants you voted out, but you have an idol you haven't told us about. Why would you tell us?
yeah, and I mean I think his rationale is probably, hey, if I even like scare them enough into thinking I have an idol, they don't vote for me because then I get to decide who goes home. So maybe that's his rationale, but I felt like he was going about it in such an obvious way where I'm like, you don't have an idol. Come on. Like
If you were out there listening to that pitch, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, oh wow, you're
sure,
safe," and
sure.
then go
Yeah.
walk away. I'm like, he ain't got that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's an interesting dynamic. I think I mean, I'm very curious to see where that goes. To me, the little snippet of Dee and Julie potentially considering going for J Maya instead of Sifu makes zero sense to me. Like, Sifu's already kind of suspicious of all of you. He's probably not going to try to work with you super closely come merge. J Maya has proven to be extremely loyal, is willing to like sacrifice herself and say, hey, I'll say I'm the decoy vote. I'll say I'm the one that voted Sifu. Like, why sacrifice someone who's gonna ride with you for the long haul for someone who already doesn't trust you?
You know what? I was dead on your side until you had brought up the point where J Maya volunteered to say she would be the vote. Because like if I mean D and Mama J Maya was already on the outside anyway of the like the former Rebo Alliance, right? Um, and Sifu is only looking for one voter that betrayed
Hmm.
him. If J Maya is willing to say I did it, D and Mama J can go, whoa, that's wild, yo. We were trying to ride with you, Sifu, and she did that. And
Yeah.
then you get to keep the strong guy around, and Sifu, maybe he'll be pretty loyal to those two. And he'll feel like he just vanquished the traitor by getting rid of J Maya, all because J Maya volunteered it. So I,
Yeah.
I think J Maya, like I love J Maya, and I think she has great potential in the game, but I do not understand why she put herself out there like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I think when you're put in that situation, you have very much like and I think I let this affect my game as well, where you're like the us versus the me. And I think based on people's personalities, you have different tendencies. I think J Maya is probably someone who, in her real life, very much puts like the community, the us, before herself. And I think that's what she was trying to do here. But in Survivor, you have to be selfish.
Mhm.
And so I think she made a move where she was like, "Hey, I'm so loyal to you guys. I am willing to like be the person to like, I don't know, like take the fall so that we can get rid of this guy and like, he doesn't play his idol that we think that he has."
Mhm.
But unfortunately, that move is maybe going to backfire on her, even though she was trying to do something like out of the goodness of her heart for what she thinks is like a tight alliance with the other two girls.
And that's really the unfortunate thing. It's probably because J Maya is just a really lovely person, and it just came naturally to
Exactly.
her. And
Yeah.
I think you're totally right. But then obviously we're looking at it being armchair Survivor players, and you go like, man, I don't know if that made all that much sense, right? It's a witch
Right.
hunt, and
Right.
you're saying I'm the witch.
Right.
But that's not great. But that's because she feels confident in the other two, and
Yeah.
that's because D. I love D. She's playing probably the most selfish game, I think, right? Would that be fair to
I
say?
love Dee. She is so fun to watch, and her takes are so spot on. Like, talk
Hmm.
about spot on takes. Austin has great takes. Dee also has incredible, just like intuition, and I'm so glad that she's like listening to her gut out there because I feel like it's like led her in the right direction. And I love the savage move of like, okay, Sean, you want to quit? I don't care. I'm still voting Sifu. Like, I think that's hilarious. And if like Mama J and J Maya went by like what their plan was, Sifu would be out of the game. So I think D is so
Yeah,
much
and
fun.
Sean may have quit anyway, so it could have been a 2 for 1 maybe.
Yeah.
That's gangster stuff. That was brilliant on her part. I mean, it didn't work
Yeah.
out, but she tried.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
she, I
I
mean,
I
she's in
love
a
that.
good position where she like is the power seat in that tribe. So she has a little bit of wiggle room to essentially like make risky choices like that
Hmm.
because you see that like Sifu and Maya, they are, I mean, they honestly should get together and like try to band against like D and Mama J, but they're on opposite sides. They don't get along. They don't really seem to mesh well, and they are not going to be working together anytime soon. So Maya is and Sifu are very much like with Mama Julie and D in the middle, like controlling what is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it feels comfortable. I'm sure, like, how do you sign up for a 2-on-2 versus feeling like you're the 3-on-1? And
Yeah.
I admit, like, again, I'd be like, no, it's not really a 3-on-1 while I sit at home. But when you're out there, you know, if people make you feel good enough, obviously you're going to roll with those numbers every time, even if it's
Hmm.
false.
Hmm.
So it's unfortunate, but I would like to see J Maya and Sifu hook up, but probably not going to be the case. But merge is coming, so they don't have to worry about that too much
Yeah.
longer.
True.
And I think D's even in a really good spot come merge time because they're probably going to link up with Austin and Drew, pull in maybe an Emily, but I don't know. I guess it depends if they do like the two separate tribes, like at Mergatory, like they have in the past,
Oh, like
um,
the split immunity
like the earn the
challenge.
merge
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I mean, that, obviously that can skew everything, but
Yeah.
I like D's chances right now for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
she was taken in the first round of the super fun draft with Lindsay and Owen. So I think Owen Knight also felt Dia had a pretty good chance. So
Yeah.
actually, you know what? I have to say, I think our picks are pretty spot on. First pick was Bruce, second pick was Austin, third pick was D. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we're
All
doing
great players.
doing pretty solid. So I mean, obviously, I hate to do a little bit of a transition here
Yeah, of
from
course.
great players to a little bit of disappointment in Survivor 45 up to this point, which I know, everyone's heard it. We've talked about it. We chatted a little bit. This has kind of been a season of quitters. quitters so far. I'm sure it'll get better, but quitters,
Hmm.
and it's unfortunate.
Let's pray for no more quitters for this
Yeah,
season. Like I think it's hard on everyone when someone quits. It's hard on production, it's hard on the player, it's hard on the public. Like no one wins when someone quits.
yeah,
So
it's hard on Props's Botox too. It's rough. His
yeah.
eyebrows shoot to the sky.
That face that he gave, I feel like I don't even know. Maybe it was the same exact take, but he had the same look on both tribal
I'm telling
councils
you,
when they
it's the
quit.
Botox. It's just it clicks into
Just
form.
frozen.
Yeah. Mm. But it has gone. Sorry, you caught me mid coffee sip
No,
here.
you're good.
It's been really disappointing. I hope there are no more quits at this point because, like, there have been great seasons with multiple quits or medivac. So I'm not going to say that it can't be done, right? I mean, obviously, 44 started off with, Bruce getting hurt. Survivor Micronesia, 16, fans versus favorites. There were a couple quits and there were a couple
Hmm.
medivacs. So I can't say it won't be an excellent season regardless. But when you start off with multiple quits on the same tribe, and especially the Sean one that seemed like it came out of nowhere. Like he had the
Yeah.
votes to stay, and it feels like he was like, you know what, I got what I needed from the game, and decided to leave. And
Yeah.
as a fan at home, you're furious. Like if you're a fan at home that wants to play, you're furious because you're like, well, I would like to be in that spot. And if you're a former player who had their legs cut out from underneath them, like you, Helen, you're sitting there like, dude, I would play right now. So
Yeah.
it's infuriating. You have to toe that line of not like being upset because they did feel like they got what they needed, but at the same time they had so much more to give to the game. That's always been my take, but I'm
Yeah.
curious what your take is on the unfortunate early dismissal of some of these players.
Yeah. Well, first, Brandon Dolan does not deserve to be in this little
Yeah, well, he kind of
animation.
does. He kind of
He
does.
didn't
I
quit.
mean,
He was trying
well,
to stay.
I just want to say he's actually smaller than the other two because it's not really a quit, but it's like it's halfway.
Why is it halfway? He was fighting at tribal council. Anyway, I won't argue with you about this.
No, I mean,
But
okay, just to be clear, Helen is correct about this. He really doesn't deserve to be in there, but he talked about it for a while. And
yeah, I
anyway,
think
I'm
he was
sorry,
more
Helen.
sympathizing with Hannah Rose. But either way, my thoughts on quits. I first of all, I think for Sean, it sounds like even his quit took himself a little bit by surprise. Like I feel like he got a little caught up in the moment and like a lot of emotions that poured out at that tribal council. I think I've heard him say since then that he's regretted it and like wishes
Yeah.
that he didn't get so caught up. So I feel for him because I'm sure the past few months and like leading up to the episode after the episode have been really tough because I feel like there's no worse feeling than regret, to be honest. Like
Mhm.
I hate like regretting anything that I've done, and it really eats away at your brain and your mental health.
Mhm.
So I agree. I think even he was caught by surprise there. As a former player, I was like on the Jake train where I'm like, you would have had to drag me out of here in a body bag. Like I want to stay so bad. I would have done anything to get to day 6, day 7, day 8, et cetera, et cetera. So it
Mhm.
is like a little bit frustrating and it's sad because you see people, especially Sean, who had the votes to go farther and like make it
Mhm.
another day, and then he left the game willingly. So I think it's super frustrating. I will say, like, I'm trying to extend empathy for their situation because I don't think that Hannah or Sean, I don't think either of them are unaware of what it means to quit on Survivor nowadays. And they cast so many super fans. They cast people who have like watched this game and loved this game for so long. Like I don't think that they're unaware of like, oh well, like I quit. It's not a big deal. Like I think they were very aware of the backlash they would get, of like the reactions from the community, of Jeff's reaction even, and it's a disappointment just all around, right? So
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
for
Hannah even dyed her hair a different color so she didn't get recognized in public.
yeah, exactly. Which is, I mean, all of our thoughts aside, I think there should not be any attacks or like any like maliciousness directed at these people.
Correct.
This is a
That's
TV show. It's
psycho
not that
behavior.
serious. It's like
No, it's
so
just
not that
Survivor, folks.
serious. So
Yeah.
people need to chill out. But I think for Hannah, like it seemed like she made the right decision for herself, and it was a brave one for her because she knew that day 3. This is I guess just clearly not my element. I'm not good at the nature stuff. I don't like not eating. I need my nicotine patch, whatever. She made that decision, and I think it was a brave one for her, and it sounds like she doesn't regret it. I feel
Mhm.
badly for Sean because it sounds like he does regret it. And I do feel badly that they like are facing backlash. I think it's just a disappointment all around. Like production invests so much time to get these people out there. the casting process is so onerous and it's so long, and so to your point, Kevin, like so many people want to do this.
Mhm.
It's a disappointment to like everyone, right? Like, and I don't think either of them wanted it to shake out that way either. It just like is very deflating whenever you see that, because you're just like, man, like this was a dream come true, and that's just not the way you want it to end.
Yeah, and I do want to like also reemphasize because I've seen former players say this, and I agree with them, even though it kind of contradicts what I was saying before. Like myself as someone who would like to play the game, and I look at that and I go like, man, I'd love to take their place. I'm not trying to downgrade every like some people are just not cut out to play the game no matter how much they want to. So I don't think any of these players that happen to leave earlier on their own accord owe anything to fans who were upset about it. It was their experience. It's their journey ultimately in the end. It
Yeah.
happened to be on film. That is true. It's a form of entertainment, but I don't think anything is owed to anyone. The only people genuinely I usually feel pretty bad for are folks again who kind of left the game earlier, like you left, day 5, I think it was. You said,
Yeah.
or alternates. Frankly, I feel bad
Yeah.
for alternates that were out there and just didn't end
Yeah.
up getting in there and easily could have swapped places and maybe they would have stayed the whole time or as long as they could. So
Yeah.
that's where it gets unfortunate. But again, like Helen said, if anyone actually is going out of their way to send threats or to just be mean to people's like actual businesses in their real life, this is Survivor, bro. I know I have a
Yeah.
YouTube channel where I'm talking about this stuff, and I probably spend too much time talking about it,
But it's
but
for
it's
fun,
really, it's not,
like
it's
let's not
fun.
do that.
Do you know that's why this channel like really started? Is because other than I just love Survivor and I did when I was a kid. Um, it's called the Super Fun Time Show. One, because I think it's such a ridiculously long, goofy name, and
I
two,
love it.
I know it's so dumb. It was I was like, wait, what do they call it? Like some ridiculous, like over the top, just happy, fun sounding names. Sometimes like old Japanese shows. The Super Fun Time
Hmm.
Show. That's what this is
Yeah.
based on. But two, during Survivor 43, I was like active, like talking to people on Twitter, and people were miserable, absolutely
Hmm.
miserable about a game they supposedly loved. So I was like,
Hmm.
hold on, let's do a channel where we talk generally in positive terms about things because it's not that serious, right? You don't
Yeah.
need to murder people's real life here, and instead just enjoy it.
Amen. I love that.
Exactly.
I love the positivity. Like, I think,
That's what I'm
yeah,
aiming for.
I love it. I love it. I think everything should just be like, this is all for fun. Like, don't let it negatively affect you. It's not that serious. It's all for fun.
Absolutely. And also, that's not what the new era is about. They're not really into drama too much. So if you're watching the game now and you're looking for all kind of weird drama, like I Love New York type drama back in the day on like VH1, you're not going to get it. Watch House of
Go watch
Villains,
like
but
Love Island. Yeah, House of
yeah,
Villains, like something else. Like, I
and
think the drama can be fun in like the gameplay setting, but like no personal attacks, no attacks on businesses. Like that's just like way too serious for this stuff.
totally. Actually, random side note: do you watch Big Brother?
I, Kevin, I've tried and tried and tried to watch Big Brother. I love Cerise so much, and I was gonna try to watch Big Brother
You
this
don't love
time
her that much,
around
I guess. I don't know.
for her. It's so much to keep up with. I
It
watched the
is.
first like maybe 3 episodes, and then I
Mhm.
realized that the episodes are like pretty disconnected from like the live feeds, and that's always going, and like there's all this Twitter. So I keep up with it on Twitter, but I stopped
No,
watching the episodes because I was having a really hard time like keeping up with so much content.
no, that's fair. I mean, 3 episodes a week is a ton.
Yeah,
So
and the
I
live
can't help
feeds.
it.
I'm like, I don't know how you keep up with the live feeds. It's so much. It's 24/7 content.
Honestly,
I
I
don't
can't.
know.
I can't. It's truthfully it's miserable. Like I haven't watched a full season of Big Brother in I don't know, like 6 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But this season I watched for Suri and also Zach Wertenberger's brother.
Yes,
Is on it.
Corey.
Corey's great. I don't know how he did it, man. He landed just A plus wonderful woman in America. I'm very happy for Corey in America.
Hmm.
Um, and also, it's given me another reason to love Zach. Which, by the way, Zach, to tie this in to this conversation, I didn't plan to say this, but now it works. I saw a tweet like this past Wednesday from Zach. It said, "All right,
Yeah.
remember everyone, remember to be nice to whoever quits Survivor 45 tonight."
Zach's a riot. He's also a plus follow on Twitter. He's so good.
Oh gosh, he's one of the funniest dudes ever.
He is.
Also, Liza Orlins, Survivor alum who never holds anything back, she directly replied to that and said no. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
I think I mean, I my stance, personal stance, everyone has their own stances, is you can have your own opinions. I can talk to you about it, Kevin. I can talk to my boyfriend or
mhm.
my friends about it. I don't think it helps anyone to broadcast like hate or any of this like vitriol against these players, especially from former players. Like we know how much attention all of this gets, and negative and positive attention. So I don't think it benefits anyone for me or any former player to like amplify like, oh yeah, hate on this person for their choices. It's just, not that serious.
Totally agreed. Who cares, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
fun, but it's not. I don't know. It's not that serious. So then I guess getting more toward like a wrap up phase. We've been talking for a while. Helen's been incredibly generous and sitting here and
I'm
yapping
having the
about the
time of
game of
my
Survivor.
life.
Yeah. How often do you get to talk about Survivor like straight through for like an hour 30, hour 40 these days?
Oh, you don't just do this like every single day, Kevin?
I don't. Although my coworker, I have one poor coworker. I randomly go like, "Yeah, I just got a new buff in the mail." Like it's like you don't understand. It's like a rare
Yeah.
buff, and like it's so dumb. Which, by the way, it's a heroes buff from Heroes versus Villains. I can't believe I
Ooh.
actually landed one of those. They're so rare. But
Oh my
anyway,
God.
I
That's
know, right? It
exciting.
was $50. It's probably worth like $400. So
Dang,
I got lucky.
steal.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I got super lucky. I'm thinking about the power of Tom Westman and James Clement and Amanda Kimmel whenever that thing is, well, it's in a Ziploc bag right now.
Yeah.
Whenever it's around, I can feel its aura. Um,
Yeah.
but as we get to the wrap up portion, I guess my question kind of on the outlook moving forward into the game for 45. And again, this is like impossible to really kind of narrow down since the Mergatory is coming up. So we don't even know what the dynamics are going to look like, but you have the field laid out. Who are some
Hmm.
people that you think are best positioned in your guesstimation to make it to the final three chairs, assuming there's going to be three?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I have some picks for you. I'm looking at this little graphic, which makes it very easy for me to pick out who I like,
I'm
who I
glad.
think will be
Hopefully, I
fun.
didn't forget anyone here.
Oh, let's hope not, because then I'll forget them too. Okay. So out of this top row, I think Kelly's great position. Everyone seems to want to be friends with her. Like even Caleb was like, "Hey, she's the queen bee. I need to get in with Kelly." So she
Hmm.
seems like someone who's really good at getting along with the different, like all different types of people. I think one of her confessionals, she was like, "Hey, I can like hang out with the girls and like bro out with the guys." Like she's very versatile, so I can see her
Hmm.
doing really well. Austin, we already talked about him, but my boy, I think he like is strong socially, strong physically, and just has a really good outlook on the game. So I guess with him, Drew, but I think I see Austin going a little further just because I feel like he's got a little bit more of that like personal charm. Like he's a very personal person, so
I agree.
probably able to like get along with a lot of folks as well. And he has a lot of his like OG4 alliance still in the game and probably going to make it to the merge. So I think he'll be in a pretty sweet
Yeah.
position.
Yeah, you're right.
Uh, my girl D there, I think we talked about her too. I think also someone who's like great read on the game. Um, I'm curious, like how much she expands outside of that foursome with Reba, because I think we haven't really seen her. I guess she did a bit with Sean, but I feel like she kind of is sticking with her people, and I think she's gonna maybe have to like expand a little bit more outside of that to make it like deep, deep in the game.
Oh, just to let you know, I just realized I'm missing Katura. So factor in
Oh, okay,
Katura.
okay, okay. Katura,
My
I
bad.
love
I
her.
knew
I
I
think
missed
she's so
somebody.
fun. Katura is interesting because I think that both her and Bruce are sending like baby warning signs to their Bellow tribe members. You kind of
Hmm.
saw a little inkling of that in the last episode where they were saying like, "Oh yeah, Bruce is a lot. Like he can be dad sometimes, but also Katura is messy. Like she's like looking for idols and like we're catching her. So baby warning bells. Nothing serious yet, but I'm like keeping an
Bruce
eye on
definitely
it.
hopped on that too. He was like, "See, this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of people you're dealing with right now when they call
Yeah,
her
and I
looking for
mean,
an
he's
idol."
doing her strategy, right? Like it's like,
Hmm.
oh, you hear something negative on someone you want out, you just emphasize, re-emphasize, highlight. You said, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like, let me
Hmm.
confirm what you're saying. So, yeah,
Smart strategy.
smart strategy. On that bottom row there, I think Kendra's hilarious. I could see her going far actually, because I
She's
think
so
she gives.
funny.
She's like unassuming enough that you're like, I'm not gonna like target her, and then before you realize it, she's like at the end. Like I think I could see her do something like that, like almost like a Carolyn move, where she's just like, I can just get to the end because people aren't like seeing me play as hard as I'm playing. Uh, and then I actually do worry about Caleb. I think he is too good for his own good. Like
Hmm.
he just oozes charisma. Like you can see it jump off the screen. Like if I'm looking at him, I'm like, I know I can't let you get any further than like final 6 because then you're gonna like slip your way in there. So I'm worried. Like I'm worried from afar. I don't know what the perception is within the game, but he's so good at charming people that he either like really charms the pants off everyone and like gets to the end, pulls out like a JT like win where everyone's like, I want Caleb to win like over myself, or he
That
maybe gets cut
man, that
quickly.
takes a lot of
Uh,
charm to get to that point, but Caleb's probably got it.
he's he's got the X factor, I think. And then
He
Emily,
does.
I think Emily's gonna do well. I do. I think she's
Oh,
gonna.
I think so too.
I think she is the most adaptable player that I've seen so far, and she's been through like the most iterations of, hey, I need to change how I am reacting so that I can get further, and she's done so successfully. Like I've never seen such a quick 3 episode turnaround as I did the first 3 episodes of Emily, where she started and it seemed like she was like really shooting herself in the foot, and then by episode 3 she was like really like in a groove and like hooked up with Caleb and like everything was going well for her. So
She got a lot of
I think,
practice.
yeah, so that is actually one thing that is underrated, I think, is like when you get to the merge and you're on a tribe that's been to tribal council over and over and over again, you know how it works. And you know, like you have a little bit of like, you have the reps in, you know how to like do it. And if you're a tribe that's never gone to tribal council, you don't know that feeling. You don't know how to like navigate that. And I think we saw that in like 41 with like Shannon Ricard. They had gone to like all those tribal councils and they were much more practiced and like able to keep a cool mind than people who had like never touched tribal. So I think that
Mhm.
benefits her and Caleb, and I think she's done a really good job
Big
thus
time.
far of like working her way through the game.
Big time.
So I
Yeah.
realized I just said like half the cast, but
Yeah, but I think there's legitimate arguments to make for half the cast. So I don't think that's out
yeah,
of line.
yeah. So I really like this group of like players. I think they're all super fun, and the 90-minute episodes, you actually just get to see their like personality and like who they are outside of like, oh, like who are you voting for? Who am I voting for? Which is awesome.
Well, I'll flip it real quick. Who do you think are like 2 or 3 players that you could see as most in danger right away at Mergatory?
Ooh, okay, good question. Most in
Yeah,
danger right away.
there's probably 1 or 2 you could see being the top dogs
I think,
or bottom dogs, I guess in this case. I don't know.
yeah, I'm gonna focus on Bello and or OG Bello and OG Reba because I think that when you're in the Caleb Emily position, you're sitting pretty right at the beginning
Hmm.
of the merge. People want your vote.
Hmm.
So you look at the OG Bello, and I think the people who are in trouble that we've heard people talk about are Bruce and Katura. Like we
Hmm.
heard Kelly say, "Hey, I wanted to work with Katura, but she's kind of getting sloppy out here. I don't know if I'm like if she becomes a liability for me to work with." I think Bruce, his like dadisms are wearing a little bit on folks. Like you even see, like Kelly getting a little bit fed up with him. Katura obviously is like fed up with him. So I think that's like more of a personality clash. And then on Reba, I gotta go J Maya and Sifu. Seem like they're on the outs of that
Hmm.
foursome. And with J Maya even like willing to, throw herself in front of the bus, like Dee and Mama Julie are still considering voting for her. I think those two are the ones that if anyone's name comes up for Reba, it's probably gonna be those two.
I think that's I think it's pretty dead on, especially with J Maya, I admit. Sifu, I'm kind of curious. I'm wondering, I don't know. I'm sure you probably have a much more analytical mind than I. I'm wondering if Sifu's like fake idol ploy, like could it blow up in his face, or is like Austin going to hear that and Drew, and they're going to be like, no, obviously he doesn't have a real idol. Like, or other people are going to hear that he has an idol. It's like, oh, let's get rid of Sifu before he knows to use it. But
Yeah.
like, is that somehow going to like backfire on him completely? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it could go either way. It could either like scare people off from voting for him or tell like want force people's hand in wanting to vote him out. And I think
Mm.
unfortunately like people have been pretty loose-lipped about their advantages, right? Like as far as we
Drew,
know,
Drew,
Drew,
freaking Drew.
Austin, Austin, I think Austin's idol is probably shared knowledge between all four of them, right? Mama
It
Julie,
is.
Dee.
Yeah, because freaking Mama J gave him the stupid like hammer to go get it, which I still don't know why she did that.
Yeah, interesting decision, but I think once you get to 4, and each of these people are trying to make inroads with all the other people in the merge, that becomes a very easy secret to slip out. Is like, hey, oh, did you know Austin has an idol? Do you trust me? I trust you. Be my friend. And once that comes out, Sifu's told everyone about his fake immunity idol. I think it can be like a pretty open secret of like, okay, well, like we heard about two Reba idols. Which one do we think like is real? It could blow up in his face if that just becomes like open knowledge.
I suppose, or go into your J Maya. I mean, because you think right away, all Reba are in the game still.
That's
So,
true.
if Lulu wants
And
to hook up with
oh,
Bello
not
just to
Bella,
try to
because
even it out a little
yeah,
bit, because Bella just lost Brando, so now they're down to 5, the original. So, I mean, theoretically, I guess Lulu could go with Bello for one vote, get rid of one of the Reba, and if you're like Austin and Drew, does it make sense to get rid of J Maya because of the stupid amulet? And like, because Kelly has no incentive really to keep J Maya around either.
yeah.
So, I mean,
And
I,
we
I
heard
wonder.
Austin say like, "Hey, you want to force me to take this amulet? I'm gonna get like sandwich revenge. I'm voting you all out, right?" Like, then
Yeah,
he
he's
gets
like, no,
another
I'm the one
idol
who's
in
going
his
to get the
pocket.
idol. You all are going because I'm getting this idol because you didn't let me have a sandwich.
Yeah, and I think
And
that's where like I actually think if anything, Caleb gets a little bit of like a I don't know, a little bit of runway because I think so often we see the big tribes just target each other and then
mhm,
before they realize it, the like little tribe has like worked his way to the very end. So we'll see. Maybe he does
yeah,
have some longevity there.
I hope so. I mean, like I almost feel like I don't know. It's so tough. It depends. It's all about timing. But I hope he doesn't like start off winning immunities because then it's going to become like crazy obvious he needs to go.
Yeah.
And I hope Caleb sticks around for a good while.
You see he's
But
really athletic. Like you
oh
saw him
god,
like
yeah.
shooting the basketball. Like he's so nimble on that obstacle course. Like I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. He's good at everything.
Totally. I think he's a beast. I mean, probably Austin's the only one that I can think offhand that probably would beat him more than he would beat, whoever.
Mhm.
But that's not by much. I mean, I'm sure Caleb's going to get the best of him in some things and, vice versa. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I just hope he doesn't make himself too much of a threat too early because I mean, his social game is off the charts. I mean,
Yeah.
Reba clocked him pretty quickly when he went over for the steal.
Yeah.
It seemed like they all realized that like, yeah, this guy's kind of got the used car salesman vibe going on. Like he's gonna take our fishing, but not everything because he knows how to negotiate with people.
Yeah.
Um, so I think he doesn't have long for this world, but I hope I'm wrong because he has crazy potential, like you said.
If he
Um,
wins this game, like one of the most dominant players, period. Like it would be
yeah,
crazy if he pulls out the win. So I'm almost like rooting for it to happen because I think it's like it'd be like Kim Spradlin level like domination, just like
yeah.
clear the entire game.
I still cannot like when I rewatched One World a couple months ago, and I was like, my God, what a tribe of buffoons every single one of those guys were. Like every one of them, all of them were
Yeah.
dumb. Like even Tarzan is supposed to be smart, obviously, like one of the goofiest people of all time. And Kim just
Right.
ran through it. All the ladies wanted to support her. Dominance. Boston Rob and Redemption Island, but that wasn't fair. That was a returner season. So
Mm.
Earl and Fiji was awesome. Perfect game, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Uh, God, I mean, there's a million examples, but I think you're right. I would love.
JT's first season, like fuck
Yeah,
freaking
he
crushed
won.
it.
He won. Yeah,
I
he
think that
beat
was also a
Fishback
perfect
by.
game.
It was. Yeah, it was totally a
Yeah.
perfect game. You're right. It's so weird to look back and realize that Fishback didn't get any votes.
I
Um,
know. He deserves
it's
something. Like poor guy.
that's what
Like I think
that's what
he
I
deserves
thought.
something.
It's so like it's unfortunate with the three person tribal council. Somebody's going to get no votes probably.
Yeah.
I mean, statistically, it doesn't have to be that way, but it pretty much always does.
Yeah.
Poor. Maybe this will be the first season where it's not a
I hope
one
so.
a
I think it's
seven
a little
one.
bit boring to just have 7-1, 7-1. We've had that three seasons in a row now.
All four, I think. Because Xander didn't get any votes, Deshaun got one, and Erica got the
Right.
rest.
Right,
Uh,
4. Yeah, you're right.
Mike, yeah. So basically, all of the new era has
Yeah,
been
I
that.
miss having like a close tribal council. Like, do you remember
Mhm.
when like the Wendell and Dom one? That was
That was
crazy. I was like, I didn't even
amazing.
know that this was possible.
I had no idea. And then the tiebreaker was the third place loser getting
Laurel.
to choose.
Yeah,
That's amazing. And
yeah, which is
yeah,
crazy.
sorry, I was over dramatically calling her the third place loser. She did great, just to be clear. But I had no idea they would be like, okay, so we're not gonna like revote or anything like that. There's no fire making. It's yeah, third place gets to choose, which actually was
Yeah,
probably brilliant. But the
yeah.
tensions were so high.
Yeah, it was
I'm
crazy.
glad
So
Wendell
I
won.
want that back. I think there's like the cool thing about this cast is there's so many good players and so many worthy winners that I could
Mhm.
fully see like a tribal council where there is multiple people that have like a real narrative to win the game.
Actually, you know what? Honestly, I thought 44 was gonna have it. There was a period of time where I thought Carolyn was gonna win the game, but
Hmm.
once once Final Travel started and everyone was eating up Jam Jam's words, I was like, he's gonna win by a lot.
He's so
Um,
charming. He's so charming.
the
It's
rule,
tough. I think it's that we had a pretty dope final three. Like I think all of them did
yeah,
incredible things, but I think he's just such a good speaker and very persuasive and charismatic. It's hard to argue over him. And I heard that he had just like an incredible like knocked out of park final council. So
it looked like it. I mean, the general rule of thumb, and any Survivor alum can correct me because I'm just a guy, but the general rule of thumb I've gotten from watching these tribal councils is when you get to the finals and there's one person that's making the jury laugh their ass off, they're winning. That's their
yes,
game.
yes, I
Like
think that's the telltale sign. If they are like laughing at their jokes, they've won them over.
it's
Like I think
over. You're
that's
right.
yeah,
I mean, Gabler did it
absolutely.
in 43, and I mind you, while he was doing it, I knew he was picking up steam, but I still didn't think he was going to win.
I was shocked.
And
I've never been so
yeah,
shocked at a final tribal council. I was like,
it
what?
it was wild when it was like Gabler, 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 and he's sitting there confident like this, pump fist pumping, and then you see Owen and Cass going.
Yeah,
I felt the same
yeah,
way, but I loved it because I love. First of all, as you know, I love a good bit of fun, and I love a little bit of like a little swerve every once in a while. And boy,
yeah.
was it fun watching fan reactions to it. The
It was
alligator
wild.
winning the game, and if for people who watch this channel pretty regularly, we've had Gabler on a couple times. Oh, like overall, super
Gabler is
fun.
like the nicest person in the world. He's like
He
such a kind
is.
person.
And I mean, I'm sure you probably already know this, Helen, but did you read in the pregame interviews for 45 that Emily only applied because she watched Gabler win and said that's not okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I did. I also saw that Gabler had like shirts with her face on it, which I think is very funny.
I
But
made
it's
that shirt.
oh, you did.
That's my shirt.
Oh my God, you did such a good job. I think they look pretty good, but it's a
Oh, I gotta send
hilarious
you. I gotta
cacophony
send
of
you the
events.
actual merch link. By the way, I'm sorry to cut you.
Yes.
I gotta
No,
send you the merch
please.
link. I have other cool ones, and at some point you're gonna get uploaded. It's
Please. What an
yeah,
honor.
it's a cool portrait of you. Even if you just printed out like the picture, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you'll
Yeah, I
check it
love
out.
it.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
absolutely
Yeah,
send me
Emily
the
and
merch link.
Gabler.
I think that's so funny. I think they're such different individuals, and I think it's because I had a very similar reaction when I saw Gabler win. I was like, or not to Emily, but to you, where I was just shocked. But
Mhm.
you meet him, and you kind of are like, I get it. He's like a very nice person. He's super kind. He and his wife are two of the most like generous people I've ever met in this community. So I get it. It's
Mhm.
all about the social game at the end of the day, and he's like a very kind person.
Absolutely. You know what? The first time I met Gabler is the first night I met you. I met you, and I don't know if you remember this at all. I met you at the 44 finale in Brooklyn.
Yes, I remember
Yeah,
that.
because that was I.
I remember I talked to you and you were like, you should come on the podcast at some point once all the craziness has settled down, and
Oh
now we're
yeah,
doing
you did say
it.
that. That's true. Yeah, we are doing it because that was one of those times where I was like, yeah, I was in a weird spot where I was like, I want to talk about it because I think it's fun. I think it's
Yeah,
good to talk these out. Everyone who's on these seasons, they're fans of the game. So
yeah.
we'll do that eventually. And also, I'm standing in front of Helen freaking Lee. So obviously I got to do that. But during that event, it was great. I was looking at you. I'm like, just to let you know, one or two moves differently, you would have gone so far. And I saw your
Yeah, it was
face
so
go,
nice. It was so nice.
I know. Because in that moment, I know it's weird. That night is Jam Jam night. That's Carolyn's night. It's Karsten's night. And all the pre-merge folks can't be forgotten about. I need you all to remember there's just
Oh,
a
that's
few little
so
tweaks.
kind.
Sarah had such potential to go super far into the game.
Sarah, yeah, I want Sarah to come back and I want to see her dominate. Like she is such a great player. And it is really nice. Like I very much appreciate. I can't tell you how much I appreciate when people tell me that because you go and you play this game and you've built it up so much in your head of like, we all sit here and we're like, what would I do? I would do this and I would do that and I would do so well and I would make the merge and make the final three and then win the game, et cetera, et cetera. And then you like play the game, and when things don't go your way and you get voted out on like day 5, then you have a very long period of time where you kind of question yourself and you're like, was I just like the most delusional person in the entire world to think that I could do well at this game? And
No.
obviously it's secret and you're not talking about it with people other than your family and stuff like that. So you sit on it for a while where you're like, am I freaking crazy? Like, am I insane? So it's very kind when like anyone is like, hey, like I was really rooting for you. I saw something in you, because then you're like, okay, I'm not crazy. Other people also thought it.
No, not, I mean, absolutely not at all. I mean, I think it was very clear. Like, I remember as a fan sitting there, I wanted Carolyn and Jam Jam to go further because they're, I mean, first of all, they just got a better
I
edit
mean,
probably, but they're
they're
also two of the
incredible
most,
people to watch on TV.
exactly. I mean, they're two of the most iconic characters they've ever cast. And they were the
Thousand
same
percent.
tribe, same season. So I just wanted that to happen. But I remember I was watching and I was very confident you, Sarah, and Carson made a ton of sense to move forward. And then it
Yeah.
just didn't shake out. If it had, instead, one vote flips the other way, you all are probably looking pretty good moving forward.
Hmm.
So that's why it's a good reminder. And this is for anyone at home. I'm trying to think of the casting process, like pre-game, during the game, after the game. And I'm trying to go through that headspace. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if this is like on a very intense level. I don't know if this is a lot different than like playing a board game at home with my friends, where like I had mentioned earlier with Catan, I just made
Hmm.
one wrong move at one time and I paid for it and I lost. It's very low stakes because it's a stupid board game at home, but Survivor is just a game. It's not the best, the most skilled person to play the game isn't always going to win. What
Yeah.
everyone else does affects you. Sometimes stuff just does not go your way, and I think it didn't go your way.
Yeah. And you realize so much too how much luck there is when you
Mhm.
play the game, because you think about like my first 3 days there, we were put on the Tika tribe, which none of us have any control over, and we were probably one of the weaker tribes. Then we lose Bruce day 1 because he hits his head on the wood posts, and none of that is anything within your control, but fully shapes your destiny in the game. So it's a nice reminder to just be like, hey, sometimes the dice just doesn't roll your way, and that's what happens.
I mean, I think what we learned from this is there, I mean, from 45 is there's probably a decent chance that Bruce would have exerted a good amount of influence over Tika, and it could have completely changed the voting dynamic in the end. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe he
Yeah.
wouldn't have. I mean, I can't imagine Carolyn falling under too much control, honestly. But I
I
mean,
don't think
maybe
she likes to be controlled.
no, that's not what I figured for. That's for sure. So she probably wouldn't have quite fit into that. But I could definitely see some folks just reading the numbers, like you and Sarah. I think you could have worked with Bruce and Carson. You know, he's a smart guy too. I think he could have gone with that. And I don't know. Honestly, Carolyn probably would have been first vote if I had to guess. But
Mhm.
if with Bruce in the game, but that just goes to show if he doesn't crack his head open, Tika looks very different, and so does the rest of 44. So, but
Yeah.
that was one of those things. Not to digress too much, but that was one of those moments that was very cool. Got to see it at Brooklyn. And same with Gabriel, like you said, you can understand why this guy won a social game and had no votes against him the whole time.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
for
it
sure.
speaks volumes. Which, by the way, random side note, I was texting his wife earlier today about Big Brother. We are watching Big Brother.
I
Um,
love it, Joanna. She's awesome. She's so
oh,
cool. She's like such a badass. I think she's the coolest person.
she's pretty cool. They they invited me out to Idaho to chill, and I'm like, yo, we hang with the Gablers. That'll be fun. So, but
Yeah.
I don't know. But I don't know. I think they're gonna have another finale thing in LA for 45. So who knows? Maybe you'll link up with them again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go to the live LA RHAP thing next week as well. So
Oh,
if
cool.
anyone's there, I will be there.
Yeah, go say hi to Helen. Hype her up. She deserves
Yeah.
it, obviously. Remember Atika? It was a good time. Now,
Good time.
this
Short time, good time.
yeah, it's all right. You know what? You live fast and leave a sexy corpse. That's what they say, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Live
That's
fast, die young.
so quick hit questions, not even related to Survivor at this point. So I guess since the game, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? My life has pretty much gone back to normal, which is kind of wild. You have this like epic adventure, and you spend like the whole 13 weeks or so that the season's airing, like acting like a crazy person because you're flying
Hmm.
various watch parties on like Tuesday nights, and then trying to get to work by Thursday morning, and all this crazy stuff. So it's settled down a little bit, which is really nice.
That's
I'm
great.
at like a tech company doing self-driving cars. So
Oh,
trying to do that all day long, and then Survivor as like my side hustle slash hobby of like things that I just love to talk about when I'm not on the clock.
absolutely. I mean,
Uh,
self-driving cars is a big responsibility, so I mean, you deserve the time for sure.
it is. It's pretty cool. If you ever get out to San Francisco, my party trick for visitors that come out of town is to take them on a self-driving car ride, which is pretty awesome if you've never
Okay,
done one. So,
that's a heck of a
uh,
party trick. Okay.
I know it's like my favorite thing to show off. So life is pretty normal. And then doing like a few of the, because I'm on the West Coast, so there are fewer of the like Bryson Wen or like RHAP events. So I try to go to the West Coast ones when I can. So we'll be in LA next week, and then TBD on finale for 45. But I'll see if I can get out there for that too.
Oh, that'd be great. And I know you originally were gonna do the Hearts of Reality thing in Florida, but I think something
I
fell apart, right?
was, yes. One of my best childhood friends growing up, her bachelorette party is the weekend before,
Mm,
and I'm planning it. And since I'm flying from San Francisco, I have to take like a day off or two, and I
hmm.
can't really swing the like multiple days off in a row, week over week to do bachelorette party and then reality TV gigs and all this stuff. My boss is going to be like, "What is going on with you?" So
Listen,
unfortunately, I have to miss it, but I'm hoping to go to a future one because I think it's a great cause and a super fun event.
oh heck yeah. It sounds like it's gonna be good. I haven't been to one before. I am going to that. So it was
Oh, so
disappointment.
exciting!
Yeah, I know. It was disappointment to see that you weren't gonna go, but that's okay. I'm
That's
talking to you right
okay.
now, so it really makes up for all of it, which is super awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm glad that things generally are going well, but I'm gonna ask just goofy, quick hit questions. All
Please.
right. First thing, it's like, all right, do you happen to have a favorite all-time movie? Comfort movie.
Oh my God. Okay. Favorite
Like
all
specifically,
time.
I say comfort.
Okay, so not favorite movie because I think those are different.
Okay. All right. Actually, give me both because a lot of times I think the favorite is a comfort movie, but the
My
fact that you're
favorite is
distinguishing it
not a
too,
comfort movie. My favorite movie is Titanic, and it's really
oh, it's a great
upsetting
movie.
and like very sad. So I don't think it's like a comfort movie, but I love it, and I think all the effects and everything still holds up, even though it's like a 3 hour movie or whatever.
It's
Comfort
incredible.
movie,
It
I
was the
will
first movie
say.
I ever saw. I have to say, it was the first movie I ever saw that was split into like two or three VHSs. I've never in
I
my life.
remember that. My parents had the VHSs in our house and they had the Velcro back so they could stick together, but it
Yeah.
was two tapes because it was
Yeah.
such a long movie. So, yeah, I
But it was
remember
such a
watching
good
that.
movie.
And it was so good. Like young Leonardo DiCaprio, young Kate Winslet, like great movie. Still holds
Mm.
up. I think
Oh.
it's just like a perfect film.
Well,
Um,
in a really twisted way, you had to be kind of a little excited this past summer with the whole submersible going down to the
oh
Titanic
my God. In
in a
like
very
a
morbid way.
perverse way where I was like, it's like a car wreck. You can't like look away from it.
Yeah.
I was like following it super closely, but it was very like horrifying and terrifying to even think about what those people might have been going through. Like I'm glad it sounded like it was like a quick end to everything.
Yeah.
Um, but I was like going crazy, being like, oh my God, are they just sitting there being like, how many hours of oxygen do we have left? Like that's horrifying. It's like
Just
a horror
chilling.
movie.
Yeah, it was like they're
Ugh.
just sitting on it was like they were sitting on like the bow of the Titanic like Jack and Rose just waiting for that thing to sink basically.
Yeah.
But
Oof.
anyway, I didn't mean to take it too far off track there, but Titanic's a
Yeah.
great choice. I love Titanic.
Yeah, so that's my favorite movie. I think comfort movie is like When Harry Met Sally, like something light like that, where it's just like a nice little rom com you put on and like I don't know, do work or like make dinner or something. So
You know, I'm very much with you on that vibe. My comfort movie is You've Got Mail.
exactly the same, like basically the same movie at that point.
I love Tom Hanks and
Yeah,
oh my
Meg
gosh,
Ryan.
Meg Ryan. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
And anything. So I'm very much on the same vibe as you on that one.
Yeah.
But I guess like all time movie, I'm actually gonna. I know you didn't ask me, but I'm gonna say Pirates of the Caribbean. I love Pirates of the
Great
Caribbean.
movie. It's so epic. You forget how good it is because they've now like done so many like rides and like they have like 16 of these
Hmm.
movies now, but the
Yeah.
original like one, two, three are so good. And Johnny Depp is incredible in it. He's so funny and like just fun to watch.
Oh, totally. I remember when it first came out, like everyone, because I was a lot younger. I think I was like 12 or 13 or something. And they were like, oh, it's Johnny Depp as a gay pirate. And at first it was like, now when you look back, I don't even think anywhere close to that. I'm like, no, he's a brilliant pirate. That's just whimsical.
Yeah.
And this is like one of my favorite characters in the history of all characters.
I
Like,
think you and Johnny Depp both. Like he's talked so much about how much he loves playing Jack Sparrow because it's just
mhm.
like such an awesome character.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like he said, the inspiration was like Keith Richards of the Stones,
Who played
and
his dad in one of the future movies?
yeah, he played I forget his name. I don't know, but you're right. He played his dad,
Yeah.
and which I was like, man, that's like the epitome of superstardom. And by the way, as a random side note, if you go and look at the CGI of freaking Davy Jones, it is like
Does
the
it hold
best
up?
CGI I've ever seen. Still, like it's
I think
incredible.
CGI has gone downhill. Like I feel like CGI back
Mhm.
then was like more believable than CGI nowadays.
I think you're right, especially with the Marvel stuff. And I hate to say it because I used to love them, the Marvel projects. It's been rough. It's been rough.
Yeah, yeah. It gets a
But
little
for
bit like
like
too CGI'd at a certain point.
totally, like they did She-Hulk and it looked, I don't know, it looked really weird.
Mm.
But I agree with you on that. Now, okay, so going on, I mean, this may be an obvious answer. I don't know. We'll see. But now we're gonna go straight to like music stuff because I feel like I would never hear about
Ooh.
castaways, music they love, genre, actual singers or bands or
I
artists.
am extremely basic, and my favorite artist is Taylor Swift and has
Of
been since
course.
like literally like I've been following her since I was like, I don't know, like 14 or something like that. So I was an OG Swifty before all this crazy Travis Kelsey, this, that, like all of this craziness with the Eras tour and things like that. But I listened to her like in like a gross amount. Like my boyfriend's so sick of it because he's like, can we please listen to literally anything other than Taylor Swift? And I'm like, no. And I like for Spotify every year I'm in her like top 0.5% of listeners, which is freaking crazy when you think about how many people listen to
Wow,
her. So yeah,
that's
it's not
incredible.
original, and I'm exactly like every single other person in the entire world, but I adore her and I would
There are
die
no
for her.
unique experiences in
There
Helen
are
Li's case.
none.
No.
There are none. I will say, just to keep things a little bit more interesting,
Uh-huh.
recently I've been very into Noah Kahn. He's the guy who did like Stick Season, and he grew up in like Vermont, and his whole vibe is very like banjo, like folksy, kind of like Mumford and Sonsy. So
Oh,
he's
okay.
been
Yeah.
yeah, he's been a really fun listen recently, and I went to school in New Hampshire, so I feel like it just like brings me back to like fall New Hampshire kind of vibes. What about
That's always a
you,
good vibe.
Kevin? What do you listen to?
That's a great question. I'm kind of all over the place. Shockingly, I like country stuff, which isn't bad. Although I don't like Fast Car from that dude Luke Combs.
Oh,
You got
really?
a first. It's
Yeah,
fine. It's fine. It's
that's one of the
whatever.
biggest hits.
I know, right? But it's, I don't know. It's okay.
Yeah.
Now, like, funny enough, Taylor Swift, I have a pretty mid relationship with Taylor Swift. I'm pretty
Okay.
indifferent to her. I'm not saying she's bad. I just,
I respect it. You can
I
have
just
your
don't
own
get it.
opinion. I
Yeah,
think it depends on like what kind of listener you are. And I've noticed this that I am someone who loves to listen to lyrics, and my
oh
boyfriend
yeah.
listens to a song and is like, I don't know what the song was about. I just like the song for like the music and the beats
Mhm.
and like the vibe. And so he'll listen to a whole song and have no idea what like any of the words are. So I think my theory is if you like to listen to lyrics, then you get it. And if you're not someone that like loves to delve into all that stuff and you're just like listening to it for the sounds and stuff like that, you're like, it's okay.
I think you're 100% right because as you sit here and talk to me about it, I'm like, what songs do I really love the most? And although I love good, meaningful lyrics, like one of my favorite random songs is Romeo and Juliet,
Mm. By
from the
who?
90s. Dire Straits.
Mm.
It's very, I don't know, it's actually kind of a breakup sort of song, but a lot of songs are breakup songs. That's fine. You're a
Yeah.
Taylor Swift fan, you know.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think I'm definitely more of the music rather than the lyrics.
Hmm.
Which
Hmm.
coincidentally, another one of my favorite movies, music and
Music
lyrics.
and lyrics, it's so
Yeah.
good.
It's so
I
underrated.
non-ironically listen to a lot of the music from that soundtrack.
I'm never, oh, so do I. Like, never want to lose my head, and then pop goes my
Goes my
heart.
heart.
He
Yeah,
does
so
this.
good. It's like the 80s, the faux 80s. And then I
Yeah.
also loved like I forget the pop star's name, but when she was doing like the Buddha's Delight dance and song, I thought
Oh
that was
yeah.
so catchy. So good.
It actually, yeah, that was actually a catchy as hell song. I mean, I think it
It
was about
was. It
like
was a very believable pop song.
it was basically like some weird Britney, I don't know, weird version of era of Britney or something like that. But it
Yeah.
worked. I was totally into it.
Yeah.
Anyway, music and lyrics great. If and music stuff though, I will tell you this. So, like there's artists. My favorite artist of all time is Billy Joel. I just one day I
Oh,
realized one day I realized this guy has a million hits, and I went, God, I was like, I guess he's my favorite. Um, but Blink 182 was like growing up, that was my band, and it's firmly my number two. Well, like it's my number one band, but Billy Joel's probably my number one artist. So
Those
if
are
you,
both great picks. Like Billy Joel does not miss every single one of his songs. Like it doesn't even matter if you've ever sought it out, you will know every one of his songs because he just has such bangers.
it's true. Uptown Girl is one of my favorites. I dated somebody, I thought she was an Uptown Girl. Still fond memories of her to this day, and that's part of the reason why I love that.
Yep.
But Only the Good Die Young was the thing I would always play at the bar and the touch tunes in college.
Hmm.
Because, why not? And, everyone knows Piano Man and,
Yeah, of course.
oh, and there's an underrated song from, I think it's called like Max in the City. It's a cartoon. I think it was a Disney
Mm.
thing. It was like a dog that lived in New York City, and it's called Why Should I Worry? I love that song.
I haven't heard it. I'll look it up after this.
Yeah, check it out. It's
Yeah.
when I realized it was Billy Joel singing, I was like, that talking dog is Billy Joel. Recognize that anywhere. But those are definitely some of my favorites there. I mean, I don't know. I used to not be a huge music person. Then I realized music is life. Like I'll tell you the song I cannot get out of my head lately. It is "Dance the Night Away" from Dua Lipa. I cannot
Oh,
stop listening.
yeah, she's a genius. She has created just like banger after banger. So yeah, she's great. She's amazing.
Honestly, the Barbie movie, it did it for me.
Love it. Loved it.
Yeah. It was
It
so
was
good.
so
Like
fun.
I listened to Push by Matchbox 20 like a million times this summer because like just because of Gosling, you know.
Yeah, Gosling was
Yeah.
so good in that movie. He was like, I was like laughing out loud. It was so funny.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was incredible. If he doesn't get some kind of like Oscar or something like that, it's we as a humanity have failed. We all need a laugh every now these days more than ever probably.
I
So,
know.
yeah, I mean people are quitting Survivor these days. We need a freaking laugh. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, I'm sorry I've dragged this on probably a little too much. That's just what happens when you're
No,
having
this is so
pretty
much fun.
yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, that means because Helen talked about it a little bit before we started that ever since the game ended, obviously Helen's been very busy getting self-driving cars together. So there hasn't been a lot of time for podcasts quite yet, and 45 has barely gotten off the ground. So really, Helen said that she hasn't done a lot of these so far at this point,
This
just
is my
because.
first podcast post
Yeah,
game. So
yeah. I'm
thank
right
you for
after.
inviting me on this.
Oh, of course. I'm so happy. Obviously, I went up to you in Brooklyn and I said, "Hey, let's talk a little bit." I'm no professional host. I'm just a fan who likes to talk about the game with other people. So this has been a really wonderful time. I'm really glad you spent way too much time on here. I promised you like an hour, and
Oh
you
man,
have
I'm
been
having a
lovely and
blast. This
talked.
is really just like a little hang stash between me and Kevin anyway. So
Honestly, I don't even know what like this isn't even doesn't even need to go up on YouTube at this
no,
point.
it's
This is
just for
just
us.
we're just buds. Yeah, we're just
Yeah,
chilling now at this
exactly.
point. Absolutely. Screw y'all. Um, no, hopefully in the future. At this point, since we obviously love talking about this stuff, hopefully in the future we'll do something more. Maybe we'll even do another recap. Maybe we'll have a fun
Yeah.
video where we try to put together like a Cook Islands 2 cast or Heroes versus Villains or whatever, and Helen will come back and just basically shoot
My
the
God,
breeze with us.
I would freaking love that. I don't know. Sorry, I'm now dragging this on for so long, but we had a
No, no,
cast
it doesn't bother
reunion
me.
for 44 after our season wrap before we aired, and we all hung out in an Airbnb in Austin, which I don't know if we're allowed to do, but anyway, we did it. And we did exactly what you were describing. We had our little
Get out.
faces printed out, and we were like, okay, let's do brawn, beauty, brains. Like, let's rearrange our faces and say who would belong where. Okay, now
That's
let's do
amazing.
heroes versus villains. Let's move our faces and say who would belong
You
where. So,
did?
yeah, we did that for like 2 hours. Like, we're probably super narcissistic that we just like made up these like hypothetical seasons with our own
No,
cast, but it
it was
was so
amazing.
much fun. It was like a blast.
No, amazing. Where did you fall? Were you a hero or a villain?
Well, I wasn't in the game long enough to be a villain, which I was a bit upset about. I think it's more fun to be a villain, but I was a hero.
Absolutely.
So,
Everyone wants that. Is there like a Taylor Swift villain era or anything like that?
yeah,
Could you relate to that?
reputation. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Reputation. Yeah, you're in your you're just trying to get in your reputation
I
era.
know. I
And
was too short for the world, and if I had been there longer, you would have seen me in my reputation era. So if
I
I
think
ever
so
go
too.
back in the game, that's my goal is like reputation era from day one.
I would love it if you went back into the game and somehow like if Taylor Swift is still a thing, which obviously she will be, she's going to dominate
Yeah.
the world for the next 15 years at least. You gotta every once in a while, I need you to hit a confessional and say like, yeah, that's it, I'm done. At this point in the game, I'm probably in my I don't know what era is there. I'm in the villain era right now, but really we're trying to work toward the oh God, help me out right now.
I'm okay. So she's in her reputation era. I'm in my reputation era. I'm trying to get to my lover era.
There
Lover
you
was when she was
go.
just like, oh, everything's lovely and sparkles and rainbows and like sunshine and daisies. So yeah, I
Perfect.
think that's the move. If I ever go back on Survivor, my move is just going to be how many Taylor Swift lyrics can I sneak into every confessional that I do?
Oh my God, that'd be the greatest like goofy fun like task for yourself
Yeah,
ahead of time. See before anyone picks up what
yeah,
the hell
exactly.
is going on. I love that. Even as like a non-initiated T Swift fan, I mean, I
Yeah.
I think that'd be really great. And
Kevin's like,
obviously,
what
I
is she talking about? She's just spewing nonsense in these confessionals. I'm like,
but like half the country is gonna be like picking up what you're putting down, which is
hopefully,
great. Yeah,
hopefully.
I think it's very fair. Oh, like honestly, I think you just increase your chances by getting on by talking about the idea of like weird cross promotion with Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I mean, it's a winning strategy. I mean, look how she put Travis Kelsey on the map.
I know. No one knew who Travis Kelsey was.
He
Travis
was a
who?
nobody. He was a nobody. He was a nobody with a couple pieces of jewelry. Who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It like I hear about Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift all the time. Actually, but since you're a Taylor Swift fan, that merchandise store I talked about, there's one shirt. You got to tell me if it's any good. It's based off of Taylor Swift merch. It's called the New Eras, and it has like a bunch of
Ooh.
yeah. You check it out because again, I made it and
I
I
will
don't really know what
definitely
I'm
check it
doing.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give it a go. You let me know. I was told a former castaway's daughter, they bought it for their daughter, and their daughter wore it to school one day. And this is like a 13-year-old girl. And that's a big deal because when you go to school and apparel matters sometimes when you're at that age. So the fact that they
Oh,
wore
so
that shirt,
much.
I feel a little honored by it. Not gonna
That's
lie.
like probably the highest compliment that you can get for anything that you make apparel wise is if a 13-year-old wears it to school. Because you know
I
the
think so.
13-year-old girls are vicious out there. So you have like the highest seal of approval if a
I
13-year-old
did.
wears your stuff to school.
That's how I felt. You're 100% right. Like you saying that is such a great reaffirmation for me as
Yeah.
a pseudo creator and who doesn't know anything about T Swift. When that happened, I was like, oh, I didn't screw it up. Yes.
Yeah.
It's the
Huge,
greatest thing.
huge W.
Absolutely. And reminder for everyone out there, I didn't say this initially, but actually, the Hearts of Reality event that we were talking about with Helen, this merchandise has actually been made. And right now, the profits are purely going to Give Kids the World Village,
Oh, that's
which is what is supporting
amazing.
Hearts of Reality. Yeah. So I'm not making any money off of any of this stuff at this
Yeah,
point, at
everyone
least.
buy this merchandise. It's for a good
Yeah.
cause. And it's
And it's
13-year-old
solid.
old girl approved.
That's right. I mean, we're getting approved all over the place, and 13-year-old girls, honestly, was the target market. I didn't think I would get. Nailed it.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Love
I
it.
mean, there's
Love
other
it.
goofy, fun shirts you can look for. Like there's a Princess of Ponderosa shirt they can pull from there.
I love
Or
it.
there's one shirt that says Brandon can climb me. Um, uh, I was gonna put another one on there. It says like Brando can wear me like a tube top or something.
I love these. These are so funny. I need
I
to check out the store.
I I don't know. Some of these I may have to like run by you to see if they're a little too over the line. I don't. I have one idea. I don't think in good conscience I
I
could put
think
on there, but we'll
over
see.
the top is what gets it going. Like it's hilarious. You have to
Oh,
go for hilarity here.
okay. Well, what do you think about the idea of putting getting a shirt of like putting like Reem from Edge of Extinction's face on it and says I like to edge? Is that over the top? I don't know.
Oh my god, I love it so much. Oh
I
my
don't know
god,
if
I think
anyone
that's
would
so
buy it,
funny.
but like I'm just trying to make shirts that make me laugh and maybe other people will think it's funny. I don't know.
That's so funny.
But like maybe it's probably too
Maybe
much to put
not
her face
Ream's
on
face.
it.
Maybe just do like Edge of Extinction, like the logo or something. I don't know.
I
Something
can't.
like that.
They'll sue me into
Oh, that's
oblivion.
true.
I
That's
mean,
true. That's true.
yeah, I don't want to talk too much openly, but yeah, that I definitely can't
Yeah,
do. But
that's true. That's true.
maybe I
I
can work
forgot about
around
the
it.
legal ramifications and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But something like that.
Oh, absolutely. We got tons of stuff out there. You definitely check it out. But again, that's just benefiting Hearts of Reality. That's a great event, and obviously Helen is supporting it, even though not able to go to that event. Really awesome. But you can check out the merch store. I'll link it in the info down below. But just for the sake of Helen's life of being able to actually get back to it, Thank you again so much for sitting here and chatting with me today. Not with us. There's no one else. With me today about this game. It's been a total pleasure. Not surprised. I've been targeting you to be on this podcast for a good little while, and hopefully we'll chat more in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Kevin. I had a freaking blast, and I'm sure we'll do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Hopefully, this torpedoes you into just becoming the most popular girl at the ball with all the podcasts, wanting to talk about all
Yeah,
kinds of
you're putting
Survivor
me on the
stuff.
map on the podcast in the podcast world,
Well,
so
we're
appreciate it. You're opening the door for me.
we'll see. I mean, I'm a small but mighty channel, so who knows? I don't. I hope it gives you exactly the push that you need, personally. But
I loved
right
it. I
now,
think this is so fun. So maybe I'll just start pestering every single person and asking if I can go on their podcast.
oh, that'd be great. There's tons of great people out there for sure, and Helen's
Yeah.
amazing, as you just heard. So again, thank you so much, and for everyone out there, make sure to check out the channel in the future. Hit the subscribe button, of course, and there'll be more content. Obviously, just a recap of next episode, but there may be some videos in between talking about the different advantages, like Helen had so astutely broken down about the amulet, whether you should take the sandwich or not, and kind of compare the amulet this season versus the one in 42. So again, hit the subscribe button on that, and we'll talk more in the future. And again, thank you all for watching. Hope you have an amazing day. And remember, the tribe has spoken. Bye,
Tribe
all.
has spoken.